some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Buy things at here websites.com.
Paid a lot of money for that commercial. Hopefully it worked. So, welcome to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live weeknights at midnight Eastern, which is 9 p.m. Pacific time, which isn't that late. We talk about guns. So, nobody joined in. Sent it out to 24 people today, about 20 minutes ago, something like that. See if anybody jumps in. Otherwise, short show. I don't like to just rant, and that's what it turns into. Basically, I'm sitting here talking to the wall. It's no fun. I like using the internet and having conversations. So I was just sitting here watching the Babysitter Show, and this week on the Babysitter Show, they make a little metal baby carriage, so that's fun. And then they go to some planet. So here's the thing. How come they got spaceships and they can travel between planets, and then they keep landing somewhere that they have to walk for 2 days to get to? How about you start landing closer where you're going? There's Gary. So, Gary, I'm watching the Babysitter Show. You've been watching the Babysitter Show?
No, I haven't.
The Mandalorian, the Babysitter-orian?
Nope.
So you don't watch Baby Yoda and his Boba Fett friend?
I have not, no. I guess, totally out of the loop on this one.
So you ever seen Star Wars at least?
Saw the original movie in the theaters back when I was in high school.
Yeah, I guess if you're older than us, I could get that it's just a movie or whatever. But obviously it was a big movie. They ruined it a couple of times. They've made it cool a couple of times. Right now Disney owns it, so it's not the original people who wrote it, I guess. So some of the cool stuff from those first three movies back in the olden days was this one Boba Fett guy. You know who we're talking about? Guy looks like a guy in Night or something.
Yep.
Space Knight. So they made a big story about him. He comes from some planet, other people that look just like him. And now they got this series on, and it turned into, you remember Yoda from the first movies.
Oh, yeah.
There's like this baby Yoda, and evidently there's only two Yodas in the whole Star Wars. So this third Yoda is a big deal. So this whole series is about Boba Fett babysitting a baby Yoda. So anyway, I was just saying how this happens in a lot of movies, not just Star Wars. They're always landing on some planet. And I just got to the part, and I paused it to start the show, where they got to go walk for 2 days. They're using some kind of lizards as horses, and they're walking for 2 days. Why don't you just park your spaceship 2 days closer to where you're going? You got the pick of the entire planet on where to land. Why you landing 2 days away from where you're going? Doesn't make any sense to me. Unless you're like trying to take a vacation or something.
That's true. But that would make for a short movie.
I guess. Nah, nobody was in here, so I just was talking about it. It's a good one because they got the IG-8088 movie, or robot, from the movies. And that's back in this particular show, this episode of it. I think that's why everybody was so happy about it. Everybody was happy about it in Match Chat earlier. Only about halfway through. I'm not impressed. I'm sick of the Baby Yoda already. They do that a lot in Star Wars, though. They want to sell toys, because that's a big part of Star Wars. And they want to appeal to the next generation of little kids, I guess. They started doing this to us with Ewoks back in the olden days, so it's not like it's anything new. And then they went on to, well, there's like been a little fuzzy thing in every damn Star Wars pretty much, so they can sell some kind of fuzzy toy to little babies.
Yep, and they can do some co-merchandising like with McDonald's or some fast food place where you can get little toys in your meal and stuff like that.
Oh, heck yeah. That's syndication. What's that called? Yeah, I guess. But that element of it, yeah, that's a whole nother level of income from these shows. But, you know, they cost millions of dollars to make, I guess. So that's how they justify it. They're going to get income from all those different places. Yeah, I got no problem with the Baby Yoda. They're just exploiting the Baby Yoda at this point. Can only take so much cute. Like having something that's cute, knowing it's cute is one thing, but holding it up as like the only reason to watch the show every week, it's going to be annoying. Plus, Baby Yoda just walks around. They walk into a bar where Boba Fett walks into a bar. Sounds like a joke. Boba Fett walks into a bar with some lady and they're arm wrestling and stuff. You know how space bars are. They're full of space vagrants and space winos and whatever, robots.
Yep.
So assassins and things and bounty hunters. This guy's literally a bounty hunter for crying out loud. And he just has the Baby Yoda walking with him. Like you'd have kid would have to be 15 years old before you wouldn't be holding their hand in a bar like that, you know? Any 7-year-old little kid, you wouldn't even take him into that bar. He brings in little Baby Yoda in there. He's just walking. Nobody steps on him. He's like the size of a little dog.
Yep, that's
So,
great.
yeah. Plus, I just got done watching the show about Hello Kitty. That's all an equation. There's just some mathematical equation they can do to a mammal's brain to make it look so much like a baby that you can't help it. You have to look at it. That's what they're doing to you. They're doing the Hello Kitty mind trick on you.
Sure.
They had to land away from civilization to hide from the girls. Oh, that could have happened. I guess that could explain it. I don't pay that much attention. Plus, it's really sketchy, like my internet's bad or something. It's not downloading well. But still, you'd think they could do stuff like they can fly from planet to planet. Like they can't make like a little dome of cloaking or tunnel of cloaking. Some kind of hole. I don't know. Roof that opens up in Futurama.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, he's 50 years old, but I'm just saying how small he is. Like he'd get kicked, he'd get stepped on. There wasn't that little of creatures walking around in there. DM is saying he was 5, his dad would take him to taverns. Well, yeah, I went to bars too, but they didn't let you just walk in. You'd be held or carried in and sat down. People don't just let you go as in a tavern as a little kid, little baby kid.
Yeah, not by yourself.
Because at the same time, Baby Yoda is 50 years old. He walks around like today. I won't spoil it, but he does a baby thing. He does a thing that they have to be like, no, little baby, don't do that. And if he was 50 and he was acting like a 50-year-old, you'd say, hey, quit doing that, 50-year-old guy. They're treating him like a baby. So he's a baby, even though he's 50. Anyway, so Roll Call had a show. It didn't work. I guess he was having mic issues or some kind of issues with the duck. And then before that, Matt had a show. This is Wednesday, so before that, Rick had a show, but I was out while that happened, so I didn't see Rick's show.
I got the last few minutes of it.
Did he have a topic? He usually has more of a on-point show than some of us.
Oh, I think they were talking about a lot of the events of the day, especially the impeachment hearings, which seems to be the news of the day.
Yeah, I have. I don't know if it's a new thing. I think it's a new thing because I get NPR really good now, and I didn't used to get NPR very well at all. It was always on a station that was sometimes like a community station or like a college radio station. You know, something that wasn't backed by any kind of sponsor. So small station, small reach, and you'd have to be, line of sight, or if you were behind a building, you might not get good reception, or if you were down a hill, you didn't get good reception. So with the train and everything out here, I'm just used to not getting NPR very consistently. And then, I don't know, a while ago now, maybe a year ago, that kind of changed. And you can get NPR as you just scan. I scan the radio dials a lot. So I don't keep track of radio stations change quite a bit, it seems like. And I drive through cities where I don't know what the radio stations are anyway. So I scan them. Anyhow, so it was on NPR today when I was driving around. And it must have been like closing statements or some sort of summaries or something like that I was listening to. And they just, on NPR, at least what I was listening to, the portion I was listening to, it was just plain raw footage from, or what do they call it, audio from the hearings, I guess. And, all right, like I say, it was summary. So maybe it was after. I'm not sure what part of the procedure, but nothing new, just same old, the one side saying this is grasping at such straws. It's so obvious that this is a big ado about nothing. And then the other side basically literally taken the other side. This is the most important thing, and if we don't pay attention to this, and not only society but our constitution, our whole way of being depends that we don't take this lightly, and it's ultimately critical and crucial. And then I turned it off because that was tough to hear, tough to listen to. The only thing I was thinking is, I mean, the problem is it would be nice if they say all that and they use the Constitution, because they're all crying about the Constitution at this point. Like, oh, the founders built this stuff in, and this isn't a death throw. This is this is a part that's put in there. It's a tool, and we're supposed to use it because the Constitution's so awesome, and blah blah blah. Because in a minute they're about to, in the same breath almost, say, oh, the Constitution isn't that important. The Second Amendment isn't that in stone. They didn't really mean that about the Second Amendment. Like literally the same breath if you asked them about Virginia right now.
These are the same people who were griping about the Electoral College 3 years ago, too.
And so
they're kind of picking and choosing what parts of the Constitution they want to use.
Did anybody get Christmas cards from somebody they didn't expect to get them from? I don't expect to get them from anybody, so any of them I get are unexpected. I don't do that. I don't send them. My family, my one grandma kind of did them. And I have a sister that does them, but it's not really a tradition so much for us.
No, now many years ago, you'd get a stack of 30 or 40, and you'd have to spend a whole night getting all those things ready to go. But people don't do it so much anymore.
Yeah, for a long time I used to get them from clients. I never really sent them out. Like I say, it just wasn't a thing for me. But so I got them from clients quite a bit, and I don't have clients anymore. So that was a thing. But that kind of crapped out too. I think it turned into emails, or I don't know what you call it, like an e-card or something. Like some service would have like a thing, you click on it, and it's sort of like a newsletter or something. Like a service would send like an HTML-based fancy email out, kind of personalized to you. But you could tell that it was the equivalent, trying to be the equivalent of sending out a, greetings or whatever on the holidays. But I also go from Christmas cards to holiday cards to season cards. And, you kind of, if you're going to do something in mass to people that you're not 100%, I guess, aware of their position on stuff, then it gets into, you got to tread lightly, I guess is the way I say it. And then if you send it out to too many people, you're probably going to come across some people who get upset about Christmas or something. So even then, you can't just send out Christmas cards unless you are sending them out to like your church friends or your immediate family who you don't care if they get upset about it or something.
That's true. That's very true.
I guess it's saying old people still like them. And I guess it kind of depends too. Like, I don't have a house with a fireplace and a wife that would put them out on a fireplace. But, if you had stuff like that, that probably is more of a thing than like if I get them, I put them in a pile maybe, like I don't put them out or nothing. It's not a thing. Like when I would get them from clients, you know what I mean? Like you're not putting them anywhere then.
No, I did get one this year from my niece who sent me an updated family picture of her and the kids, and that was kind of nice to have something like that along with the card.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing where my sister will kind of update on the family kind of thing. And that's where, I went to this quinceanera not too long ago, and that was a big family. Like, I don't have a big family. Like, this was a big family. And for something like that, I mean, yeah, like you're saying, you'd have quite a few to have to send out every year, but at the same time, you'd be updating. Everybody would know about everybody's business, or at least the high points of the year, right? And that could be useful, important. Got a big family to keep track of, I guess. So again, I could see it being still important to some people, for damn sure.
My sister used to send out a Christmas card, and then she did kind of like a family newsletter thing that kind of had an update of everything that happened to their family that year. So-and-so went to college, so-and-so got a new job, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of neat to read, especially if you didn't keep up closely with the family. Of course, nowadays everybody has Facebook and they already know about all the stuff that's happened with you, probably. But back
That's
then, kind of nice to get updates.
That's what New York's saying. They just like to know you took the time to think of me things. And then I was thinking of that, the same thing you said. It's like, yeah, that could definitely been a thing. And it still would be a thing if you barely talk to people a couple of times or once a year. Then yeah. And it's like, hey, we're still family and here's what's up. But I think what you just said there, a lot of people now don't get out of touch with anybody. Like if you're out of touch with somebody, it's because they or you are not connected. You know what I mean? And if sometimes you're both connected, you just don't happen to give a shit about what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, but grandparents and stuff like that just can't happen. Like, you don't need to send a card to your grandparents. You're connected with them. Your aunts and uncles, like if they're watching what you're doing on your Instagram or your Facebook or whatever, it's not like they don't know the status of your family or whatever. In fact, they're probably like way more intimately familiar than in the past. But so it's less of a necessity, I guess is the word, to like acknowledge them once a year, because now it's almost like just an additional thing. Did I send you a link, roll call? I don't know if now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I hit the R's when I was sending out links. 24 of them in here. Oh, no, I didn't. I'll send them a link here.
Yeah, my dad back in the day would send Christmas cards back to old Army buddies from World War II and stuff like that. Nowadays, you just have those people's friends on your Facebook and you know all about what's going on with their lives. But
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like you have never fallen out of touch with those people like you would have back in the day, potentially.
Now, back about 20 years ago, I used to make my own Christmas cards, and I would take pictures of myself, my wife, and all the kids, and do funny things with them and stuff like that. You could buy these blank white cards that were pre-folded and everything, so you just ran them through your printer, and then everybody kind of got a chuckle out of what we'd come up with for Christmas card ideas every year. I kind of miss those days because it was kind of fun designing them.
Well, I think that's what Chris just said too. My wife and I did a whole Christmas card big thing where we dressed up in ugly Christmas sweaters with our cat. We stuck a cat-sized Santa hat on. This is a joke, and they don't have Facebook. So that's the other thing is when you're doing that, then there's something that exists that people have that they can choose to not keep it or whatever. But if they do, or when some people do, then that's a tangible thing. Like that's something that you can look at sitting around a fire at Christmas and not have a computer on. Like not that many people are going to go, hey, we're in the what's the word? Like, it's the season and we're in the mood or whatever. Let's bring that laptop over in front of the fireplace as we're opening presents or whatever and look at the Evites we got for Christmas. Like, it's not the same as having something up on the mantle or on the table or whatever the hell you put them. They're all sitting there in a big pile, or the photos, like you're saying, that get updated or added to those collage pictures or whatever, so that each year you see the family growing literally.
Yeah.
When do you put a hat on a cat not as a joke? Well, for example, if the cat's occupation requires it, like a bus driver or sanitation operator.
Now, my daughter does have different things that she buys for her pets because she has 2 cats. And she has taken pictures of the cat with a Santa hat on, a real one, but you got to take them quick because they won't leave them on very long.
Yeah, there's occasionally like a cat that can handle that, or if they're asleep sometimes. But if most cats ain't got like stuff, not like a dog. Dogs can handle it for a little while.
Oh, wow. We got 29 people watching.
Mm-hmm.
And only 11 thumbs up. Let's try to improve on that, guys.
Or see more than a couple of people chatting. So the idea of the Daily Gun Show originally was we wanted to do something midday. So there had been at the time, the early watch show, I think, was it was in full stream, or at least it had started up and been going long enough that I could tell it was going to go for a little while. And that was happening when these guys woke up, morning. So it was probably mid-morning out east and not quite early morning out here. And they would go on, Tony and Jimmy would go on, and they would kind of chat about gun news that would come across the feeds of the wires each morning. And then they got a pretty good following of people. Then I think Jimmy would open up a room or something would happen. A room would open and it would just be a live hangout room. And that was a live conversation that would go on until the mid-afternoon when for a while there was starting to be some afternoon shows starting up. This was a little bit before I think King Strange started doing his daily show at like 5:30 Eastern or something. So there was occasionally like an earlier show, but then the primetime shows would start up over on Gun Channels and live stuff over on YouTube, and then going into the evenings. So when Gun Channels first started back in 2013, there was really active overnight evening chat, like group or whatever. There was live stuff happening prime time since YouTube had live shows. There's always their live format. There's been primetime stuff, but then right after the primetime stuff, the beginning there of Gun Channels, everybody was on overnights. So the nighttime stuff was not even a problem. Like staying up all night chatting was a regular deal almost every single night. In fact, usually every single night. But every morning it was kind of dead, and then it didn't start up until just before prime time. So then with the early watch show cutting new ground and becoming a daily morning show, we had the potential of going 24/7. So this was, I think, 2000 and I don't remember anymore, 15? The show's been going for a while. So whenever we started doing this, it was 16 maybe. Bob and I decided to try to do a show in the afternoon that would kind of fill that gap and give us something live and try to get a 24-hour live conversation going. And that, we've talked about it before, but that first format, we were hoping to do an hour-long show with 20-minute segments and then just feature other people's 20-minute segments. Have people that wanted to do one show a week or a couple of shows a week or something, and then we would just create a frame or a structure to put all those shows in. And we really took us up on it, so we just ended up filling the gaps, and then the show started to evolve right from the beginning there. I think we originally started calling it the I Hate Guns podcast too, and then we changed it to the Daily Gun Show a couple hundred episodes in. Then over the years, again, we changed and tried different things, either because we were on the road doing stuff or, I don't know, just trying to change it up a little bit, or new hosts and things and people's schedules. And I think we changed to 3 or 4 different time slots from that early one to a later one, and then to the midnight, and then back to a 10 o'clock maybe, I think, for a little while. Then back now to this midnight. So anyway, I just kind of figured it's worth chatting about it. We've got a couple of people that might not have been listening for a long time. And that's sort of the origins of this show. It went pretty strong there from episode 1 or 2 all the way up to episode 850 without a real break. And then around September of this year, it started to waver a bit. And just recently here, maybe since the return from the Second Amendment rally, I've been efforting to try to do the show on a daily basis again. And without any structure, it's just sort of been, hit or miss, literally. And we'll still eventually get some footing here. I'm building some infrastructure behind the scenes as I get the computer now that can handle it. I've just been looking for skills to build a couple of things that I've only thought about building before. I have to now build them. Little things like segues and pieces between the shows. Then just a couple more graphic elements. I've been rounding up some data, some images and texts and stuff from back in the day. All pieces, elements that I wanted to use in the show, and sorting all that stuff so it's findable and usable. And then finally, I'm now installing the live software. And I don't just sit down and do this stuff. I kind of steal some time here and there to do all this stuff. So that's where the show's at. So I appreciate people that do show up and stick through it. Chris is saying I'm still discovering new gun tubers, at least new to me. Check out Ghost Tactical. Yeah, right on. So I think one of the neatest things about the internet, the way that we have to use it and the way that we have been using it, it didn't turn into extensions of the major programming, the major 3-letter, whatever they were, networks or whatever, like the television networks. When cable started, those networks didn't just absorb into cable and become larger versions of themselves. And that could have happened. That would have been pretty bad, I think. So we started to see HBO and TMC and those kind of things. And then as cable got more widely distributed and faster and other things, the internet, we started to see internet entities reach to the web and Netflix and all kinds of different things with iPhones and tech, smartphones. We see the iTunes being an element. So because we have no, I don't know, what's the word, like no real permanent structure, no permanent tech, things keep changing and people's interests and use of these technologies keeps changing. No company has been able to stay ahead of it and capitalize and take over. I mean, Google and Facebook could be considered some of them that have done the most work towards trying to be giant, but they still can't and they won't. Then things will continue to move on past them. Just like, again, if something was going to happen, Google would own it all. They would have all the tech and the infrastructure, and they just don't. They just offer large pieces of it. Apple would own chunks of it if it was the case, if it was possible to own it. They just can't. It's not possible. People are too independent. There's too many people. There's too many variables. And that's what I think is the neatest part about this whole thing. Since it's not just a known quantity that can be counted and controlled, it's an unknown and it's an untapped. And the way that it works is dependent on all of us being interactive. So, the fact that you're still finding new YouTubers is cool. I wouldn't be doing this if new YouTubers weren't happening, if people weren't getting larger and being more nuanced and more interesting. Unfortunately, some people get frustrated and leave or find other issues and problems and things come up that they can't stick around. And that's one of the problems that we have always. But same thing, if we had just large entities, they would fail too occasionally. So there's good and there's bad, but I really do appreciate the different perspectives people bring and the different histories and points of view that people bring to stuff. And as different points of view are all offered, then all the individuals that are aware of them can, through questions and comments and conversations, they can affect the other content creators. So it doesn't get forced. It happens naturally, and sometimes it has some positives and some negatives, but overall, I think it's got the most potential of anything. So I'm glad to hear that you're finding new people. Like I say, I'm glad that there's new people still out there and that, we still have this, I don't know what to call it, like fertile ground to work in. In fact, I'm kind of glad that YouTube pulls this crap all the time, that they're kind of this need to pull this stuff once in a while because it keeps people aware that YouTube isn't the end all be all. That's not the end of the internet. It's just one little step. At some point, we'll all look back at all this and laugh that we were so concerned that this was an issue because we just don't know what options are available when you don't look for options.
Everything kind of evolves like that. I mean, you look at TV prior to the internet, if you wanted to have a show, you either had to go on a public access channel or you had to convince network executives that you were marketable. And now you can kind of watch people who do shows, kind of formulate your own based on that and just throw it out there and see who watches it. So you may not necessarily be a star, but you don't have to be a star. You just have to produce content that people want to see and enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it. So I think you get an awful lot of different people with different ways of presenting stuff, but it's good. There's a lot of variety out there. That's always a good thing.
I don't know how deep people want to dig into that, but I could definitely chat about that one all night because, I think that's potential. You're not going to force people to do nothing. I don't think it's inevitable either. But when you have, let's say, a future with many, many, many content creators of all different types with different interests and insight now being funded by either their immediate whatever resources or, people that are friendly to that environment or whatever, or area of interest, whatever it is, like again, you can have the internet, there can only be 12 people in the whole world that are interested in some particular thing. But if each of them is willing to put in the effort or the resources, I guess, to make a website or a forum or whatever it happens to be, a channel, that brings them all together and gives them a place to have the conversation. If they're all willing to put a couple of resources in to make that happen, then those 12 people can have that specific conversation. So you'd think of that times a whole bunch. If that was the way the future is, really difficult for some entity, no matter how much money or how much influence, quote unquote, they have, to come in and affect all those independent individual things. There's going to be a certain amount that are always going to agree with whatever. And there's going to be some that can be easily influenced, but you're certainly going to just flip a switch like it's possible in a scenario where just 3 or 4 big networks own most of everyone's attention. That's what we're really talking about, is what individuals are going to put their attention towards, what they're going to use to value as input. And if there's only 3 choices like there were back in the olden days, you can pretty much kind of put a narrative out there and people aren't going to question it too hard. But when there's a whole bunch of narratives out there and people are either going to do nothing or they're going to have to figure out the nuance and pick a narrative, that actually has some flavor, that's going to make them think, or else they're going to just, I don't think you're going to get that many people that just randomly pick something and stick with it. People are going to pick something and figure, this ain't perfect. And I know there's other options. They can tune into what they want. And again, it's going to be real difficult to influence a bunch of people with simple money or simple tricks in that future.
Well, the thing is, back in the days of television, people who produced content very rarely ever got to interact with their audience. But now, with the internet, not only can you produce content, but your viewers can give you feedback. A lot of times it's instant if you're doing a live stream. You can get to know the people who watch your shows, and they watch other people's shows too, and you know them, you recognize them, and you have a dialogue with them. So it's interactive. That's what's really great about it.
Mm-hmm. And well, we've seen that for sure, but again, that can scale up and down, and you can have people who are more and less known, have like leave comments in a live thing, or like you're saying, or leave an actual permanent comment on a thread or something, and then you're creating places for conversation, I guess, in a way. It's not back and forth conversation, but you can definitely put a point of view out there and then get people's reaction and input on it. Ghost is saying, can we start over? Yeah, no problem.
Jump on in.
He's got links. Chris is saying, I know you drive around in a van. If I'm not mistaken, have you ever thought about having a desire to get a Class C RV or Class B? I don't know the different classes, but as far as RVs go, I'm not a big fan. I grew up we had the kind that was a van in the front, and then it was a chassis and the all-in-one. And then we had the kind that was a fifth wheel where you had to be in the truck, and then the camper was separate. And then my grandpa eventually got the giant kind where you're in it, sort of like the one in Stripes, except a little newer than that. But like you're in it, and it's the driving and the camper and everything's all together, but it's really big. They liked that a lot, and I appreciated it. I liked going on road trips, I think, but I did not and I liked going to what are they called? Camper joints or whatever they were called back in the day, the RV parks. With my grandparents, that was fun as a little kid, going with my grandparents to RV parks where there was other grandparents and their kids, and that's what people did for summer vacations and stuff. Like, that was great. I really liked it. And if that still exists, then sure, that'd be cool. But I'm not taking a kid on a vacation, and I don't have the money to go to RV parks. RV parks are always outside of cities, so an RV just doesn't work for what I'm doing. If I was going just to SHOT Show or like an event, it might work, because that's where we sort of started the tour, was me being envious of the TVs, the TV stations, like sports channels and stuff, would have a trailer, like a semi-trailer, whatever trailer, parked next to SHOT Show in like the, wherever they're offloading all the stuff, and they'd have their studio just right there, and they'd have all their camera crews in there with antennas and stuff, and they were using whatever tech to zap over, to the trailer, and then the trailer was able to edit and comfortable. I'm sure it was air conditioned, I bet, and then zap it up to some satellite, and it was, still probably put on the shelf for a few weeks. It wasn't like that stuff was live, but they certainly had super production studios, and this was in 2009. I can remember walking to SHOT Show in 2009 in Florida. And you had to cross this like bridge across this area, and you could look down at the see. I think it was like, I don't know what those sports channels are called, but like some cable sports channel. And we were looking at that, and we had bought a camera at Circuit City, knowing that we were going to take it back like the Monday week. We bought it on like Saturday or Friday, I guess Thursday before we left or something. We were going to take it back on Monday. We were just doing that kind of business to take video because we couldn't afford a camera, and looking down at that thing going, dang. So that's where I always kind of like the idea of taking your studio with you. So when I do the tour, that's sort of the concept, is to have a studio along. And then, I don't know, I guess we're about to start doing some look back at the 15 years of SHOT Show. Because when we started going to SHOT Show in 2005, as media, we had to have a printout. We had to have a piece of paper that people had to sign. And it said, like, I allow myself to be on camera or whatever, SHOT Show, blah, blah, blah. So we had to bring computers with those big ass, there was no flat screen monitors yet. Big ass, well, we had 16-inch monitors. They weren't big, but they were huge. But they weren't big monitors, but they were physically large. We had to bring monitors. We brought towers. We brought printers and all the cabling and junk to connect all this shit in the room. Because there was no, there were, but we weren't going to be able to use the offices. We were in a timeshare, not a hotel. So there wasn't like an office downstairs that we could share. And media room at SHOT Show had 2 iMacs and 3 other computers. That was the media room back then. And there was that was for you so you could print. And anyway, so it was a different type of situation compared to nowadays and stuff with just everything, the way that we cover it, the way that information gets sent out there, who we were sending that information to. Anyway, I've been glad and fed. Ghost jumped in. Gary's here from Kansas, Ghost from Arkansas. You guys are chatting all over the place in the chat. What's up in Arkansas?
Oh man, it's cold. That's what's up. It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold here. I think it's cold everywhere right now.
Yeah, it is.
Probably not as cold as Gary.
Probably not, no.
It's 32 here.
That's about what it is here.
So I guess that was answering the question about the camper. So knowing that we need some amount of infrastructure to actually do the things we're doing, video editing, doing live chats like this, whatever else we might be doing. And then having some experience now for years of dragging stuff in and out of hotel rooms. Whenever I first started doing the tour, I figured, okay, instead of having to drag stuff in and out, I'll drive around with a studio or an office. And like I think Vandalistica said, the idea with the van, especially the non-camper looking van, was to be able to park places. I guess that was Rob, who said you can be more stealth in a work van. Yeah. So when you're driving around, you got gas. I have a kennel because I got a dog. So I either got to put the dog up or take the dog with. And then that means hotels if you're driving around in a car. And if you drive around with a dog in a car, then hotels with a dog. And then a hotel every night, because you can only drive for so long and then you got to lay down, right, in a car. And then, I guess eating. So without that part, if you got a van, you just have gas and eating. So it gets a lot cheaper, potentially. But the problem is that it isn't perfect. So I guess the whole question started with, I thought about an RV? No, for all those reasons. More gas, harder to park when you just do park. There's definitely no way to park stealthily. And what I mean by that is pulling into a parking lot and just jumping in the back for a few hours and sleeping. I can do that. And I do that quite often when I'm driving on these trips, and it makes the trip faster. So I'm spending less time on the road because it's not like I got a paycheck while I'm on the road. but it also eliminates the hotel. So with an RV, you can do that much less. Most people assume that if they see an RV somewhere besides its own parking spot, wherever the person lives in their driveway, that you're camping. So you're always going to get looked at suspiciously. So you don't just park in a parking lot for a few hours in an RV without getting potentially roosted out of there. And if it's lately, it's tougher and tougher to find even Walmart parking lots or any parking lot that's even okay with an RV parking in it or a camper parking in it or anything, especially for any amount of time. But even just parking in it, they look at you funny. So anyway, so as I go into 2020, I'm definitely thinking about changing that system. I've been doing it now for quite a while. I guess 60,000 miles, however many months on the road like that. And it works, but it's not working the way that it could. So I don't think an RV is the answer, but there's no perfect answer probably, but we'll come up with something here going forward. Hopefully something that saves money on gas so that frees up some budget for doing something. Probably hotel or something like that. Speaking of that, our next trip,
like a hybrid van, that'd be kind of cool. It'd cost more up front, but then you'd save on fuel, as well.
You mean hybrid, like electric and gas?
Yeah.
Well, if I had unlimited,
once you get up to cruising speed, it'll click over to electric, and then when you need
I was talking unlimited funds. I don't know what they do for like those Amazon things that are not quite a SWAT van, but they're not a van anymore either.
Right.
They're mid-size. Those might be like you're talking about, because that's the whole point of those, is to be efficient, right? And they know that they're starting and stopping. Now, if they make one of those for, they might make one for local and one for on the road. I would get the on the road one, right? Like you're saying, if they make one of them for around town, period, like it's made to never go before than 55 miles an hour, I wouldn't want that one. But if they make one for like going between big, depots or something, then I would definitely want something like that, some kind of fleet vehicle. But if it was much bigger, I mean, I got the full size, whatever, long wheelbase van, because I'm an idiot. And that thing's hard to park. Like it takes an entire parking space, but more often than not, I need a parking space and then pull through into the one in front of it. Like it's too long for a regular parking space. And that's pushing it. So the things we're talking about here are even bigger than that, really. They just don't look much like a camper. They look like you're delivering something or dropping something off or fixing something. Anyway, so that gets into I don't know. I definitely would like to continue the tour. I'm just not satisfied simply touring. My goal isn't to go on vacation. My goal is to promote gun shows and gun shops and simply go into them. I mean, it's nice and it promotes them to some extent, but I would like to grow that project. I don't want it to just be going and visiting gun shops. I want to add something to it. So, the vehicle I use is simply just a cost factor, like whatever the cheapest way I can do it, or if I even need to do it. Honestly, don't know if I'm not getting something effective out of visiting these things. I visited most of the museums I actually wanted to see. So I don't know if travel is the necessary part, because the goal is really to promote the concept of it. So maybe the next evolution would be everybody going out, encouraging people to go and visit their gun shops, and somehow turning that into the project, like the combination or the collaboration of a bunch of different gun shop visits.
Yeah, when you, I know when you first started the Loophole Tour, you were using the cop car. Did you have Oro on the road with you, or did you get the van and you start taking Oro on the road with you?
No, Oro definitely went with us in the car. It's just that we were either camping in tents or just like mostly just sitting on the side of the road with a sleeping bag or going to a hotel. And that it was a $3,000 trip to go to DC and back. Most of it was hotels and food. It almost always is, but sometimes if you're, I believe some cheap, like a trip, the gas should be the most expensive thing, because that's one thing you really can't cut on. You can do better with Gas Buddy, that app that lets you see where the cheapest gas is. That'll definitely help you get the best deals for gas, but you can only get so good of a deal. Like you still have to buy gas. Like it doesn't matter how cheap you get it, you still got to buy it. So you can not eat, you can go to a cheaper hotel, You can not go to a hotel and sleep in the van. You can go sleep in a truck stop. You know what I mean? You still got to buy gas. So I'd like to see gas be the most expensive expense all the time. But whatever. The cop car had just the same gas mileage as the van, really, 14 miles to the gallon. So it wasn't very good as far as an option.
I figure would have gotten more than that. Okay.
Now, the best option would be, because and the thing is, you had to stop at a hotel, so that's why it's a no starter. Like, you can't not, and because it's really hard to sleep in the cop car too. And that's when I got the van, because after doing so many in the cop car, it worked when Bob had his camper, because then I could just take the cop car and then we'd go into Bob's camper.
Right.
But that's super inefficient to drive 2 cars and a camper everywhere. It's just because Bob was around. Like, that's why we did it that way.
Sure.
But again, that's how I also got a lot of experience with. You can't just drop a camper anywhere, like, especially a big ass one, like the one that's actually useful. Now, if you had like an efficient car and a contractor trailer, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that wouldn't look so much like a camper, and you could almost get back into stealth. But you're jumping in and out of a trailer, so it's only 12 by 12, and a trailer is kind of wimpy. So if you're going to walk around in there, it's going to move, and it's not like my 1-ton van. I can jump up and down in there, and you don't know I'm jumping up and down in there. You fart funny in a little contractor van trailer, and the whole thing's wiggling. You know.
Have you ever thought about maybe it would kill even your gas mileage even more, but like an enclosed, like an 8x10 trailer?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. A contractor trailer is basically like a utility trailer that's all enclosed with a door.
Yeah.
A lot of times they have like the back door that comes down for like a vehicle or a lawnmower.
Right.
The side door that's like a regular door. So those are usually like 12 foot long. And they look, if you don't do nothing to them, they just look like a white box, right? And if you put a gas tank or engine and something in front of them, then they just look like, he's steam cleaning something or got a lawnmower in there, who knows, right? And they don't look, I don't think, if you don't put a bunch of racing stuff on it or like some kind of stickers that indicate what's in there, I don't think they necessarily look that more all that attractive to get ripped off either. Compared to like, a camper where it's like, here's my camper and I don't have my car attached, and it's the lights are off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Because I worry about that, if you're going to drive all around in a camper, every time you're not in that camper, it's just an attractive thing with glass all around it.
Right.
People assume TVs are in it and radios and cell phones nowadays and who knows what, cash.
Yeah.
Sidecar, Road King sidecar for the dog and a pop-up camper. Nah, see, I'm not on vacation.
Motorcycle.
I'm not really trying to do road trips just to say I'm doing road trips or to be on vacation. I mean, I enjoy driving, sure, but it's frustrating. I'd rather, like I say, evolve the trip into being more and more useful for the gun shops and gun shows, really. Because here's another thing. I've been to Red October now, which was really interesting. I really liked it. The idea that it was one in Vegas so that it could attract a lot of people with alternative stuff they could do. So you could bring a family and sneak off to it. You could bring a family with the idea that, like, if it's horrible, we got other things we can do. It's not like our only option in town. So that part I thought was kind of neat. Not everywhere has that. But a big range, so it could be competition in one bay. The next bay could be, learn or see or evaluate or test some kind of equipment. The next bay was competition. The next bay was more of the, trade show type of thing. And then the next bay was competition, trade show, competition, trade show. So that, in a large enough venue, you still have a real competition going on. You bring people together to see what the competition is all about. The competition people are there with other people, so they don't get super weird about it. Everybody was having a good time. They added a swap meet element to it. So not only were you evaluating and potentially purchasing stuff, but now there's a swap meet. So it's more like a gun show even, minus the gun. So it's more like a swap meet, but people could bring their collections and their interesting stuff and trade it and talk about it and show it off. That's super cool. There was stuff to eat and drink. So it made it an interesting day event. You weren't panicked to get out of there after a couple hours because you were famished or wanted something to drink or something. And then it lasted for 3 days, 2 full days and overnight. You could camp there. So they brought the whole, whatever you want to call the camaraderie or the idea that once you're sleeping overnight with somebody, it just changes the whole event. So all the vendors potentially could start to camp out. You know, there's places in Vegas that you can rent campers, or people could drive to an event like that and rent campers. Potentially, if it was out a little bit more remote, you know, in some other part of the country, you'd have that element to it too. And, you know, what's going to save gun shows? Like nagging people that gun shows should happen, or like, you know, some kind of fear. Whenever fear happens or scarcity, what happens is gun shows get ruined. Like they become husks, shells of what they used to be, because they facilitate whatever it is, the scarcity or the paranoia. And the vendors that show up are there to exploit and to, you know, draw whatever last bit of finances or financial blood is left in the industry, in the culture. And then when they run out of business because the scarcity's done or the fear is gone, they're gone. They were fly by night and they left. You know, they dried up and let their licenses blow away with the profits. And then gun shows are left with a bunch of tables, and they either got to bring in beef jerky and stupid porcelain crap and jewelry, or nothing really, because the collectors are gone. People that collect have abandoned them. So I want to see gun shows exist. I want to figure out ways for them to come back. And, you know, I don't know. Like I say, I like talking about the vehicle and how to get there, but honestly, for me, it's just, you know, if I can get me and the dog there as cheap as possible, it's all that matters. And then only bring the dog because in Tucson, at least about $35 a day to leave a dog behind. And, you know, I like having a dog, so I don't mind bringing my dog with me. So as long as I can get it done as efficiently, as cheaply as possible, you know, the how-to of it is, you know, last minute type. I'll deal with that once I can figure out why, because the why about these projects is what it's all about, and the, you know, consequence, the not just why to do it, but what we leave behind, and that's the part that's been bugging me on these last ones. I've experienced these gun shops, but now I got to figure out better ways to share the experience and to get those gun shops out there so that others value what's going on with their gun shops. Maybe by seeing some of the gun shops that are out there today, they can appreciate what theirs have to offer more, and maybe give theirs ideas.
What
That's,
about a concept? And this would be kind of a fun thing, but let's say that a gun show promoter, instead of just finding a building like a warehouse or a convention center or whatever to host a gun show, what if they went around finding these larger ranges, something like Pro Gun Vegas, where they had that big building? So like the people that had the collectible stuff could be inside in a building, but then you could rent bays outside if you're trying to sell the guns, that people could walk up, and it's a gun show that you could actually shoot the firearms before you decide if you want to buy them or not. I think that would be a concept to bring more people to gun shows, don't you?
well, certainly, but that requires that, you know, the physical place. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy because I haven't made it a point to stop at ranges. I'm sure there's amazing ranges out there, but that's the only thing is, you know, that requires, you know, that part of it, that element, and you can't make that. That has to kind of already exist. So where it's appropriate, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm kind of saying is I mean, I'm not saying that's the next step, but that's certainly something that I'd like to see expand. I think it'd just be neat, and that would make it all the more tougher for people to just categorize all gun shows as lame or weak or whatever.
Well, let's just take like Wanamaker as an example. You know, have Wanamaker, the actual gun show there, but you've been to the U.S. Shooting Academy, the huge range there in Tulsa. I think you had a little hiccup with some police there at one time, but it's a huge range where you could have long range, you could have pistol baits, you could have shotguns, where maybe Sunday some of the dealers went out, instead of being inside the building, we say, hey, you know, we're going to have the outdoor portion of Wanamaker over at US Shooting Academy. So if you want to come over and shoot some of these guns, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to think of ways that would get more people to a gun show. And obviously there'd probably be less gun shows, but they'd be much bigger scale and much more interactive. I think that would be fun for people as well. Oh, it's just an idea.
No, I hear you. First off, I can't. There's no control panel or anything, so you just got to tell Ghost, make her yell louder or something. I heard you fine, but they're saying that maybe you're lower.
Oh, I'm trying to talk too loud with people sleeping. So
Oh, okay, yeah, don't worry about it then. So that's just a volume thing on his end.
yeah,
I was just thinking that, I'm not against that at all. I mean, obviously, it's not for everybody, but for the people that would dig it, they would certainly dig it, and that's certainly an opportunity. I mean, once you bring up that, like doing something remote or in conjunction or something, um, you got the idea of cross promotion. So now the range can talk about that they're the official, blah blah blah. Um, I don't know. I guess you'd have to make it so that the range didn't feel like, that's on the weekend. So most ranges, that's their prime time. So you
yeah,
can't say, hey, shut down your range for prime time because in case maybe we'll bring some people over if they decide to, right? Like
yeah.
that wouldn't work. But if it was turned out to be a popular thing, then it's a no brainer. So yeah, as long as you could figure out all the little incidentals, I don't have a problem with that. But the only thing is, I don't think that's by itself what gun shows are missing. You know what I mean?
No,
There's
no, no, no. I'm not saying that. I was just trying to think of ways to get more people and more interest in getting back to gun shows. I'm just trying to think of, you were talking about sometimes now you had to bring the jewelry and you had to bring the beef jerky in and all that. Well, if we just did something that would bring more people to the gun show, I'm just trying to think of just brainstorming.
Oh yeah, I hear you. So one of the things I was thinking too along that lines is because they were moping they have this thing that they don't invite me to every year for the museums where they all get together and mope about how the world ain't perfect. And they were saying how like blah 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 people don't go to museums anymore because there's not collectors groups anymore. So it's like, well, that seems like an opportunity then. That seems like you can kill two birds with one stone. So for like a gun show, one of the things I was thinking is they got they bring everybody together for a weekend, they purchase a venue for the weekend, and then they use it for 16 hours. The prime, the date, the business hours Saturday, and then sometimes not even the full business hours on Sunday. So that full Friday night and Saturday night, what if they started doing stuff? Like you've got an entire show full of stuff. For one, why are gun shows only till 5 o'clock or something dumb? It seems dumb. Like, has anyone ever experimented about leaving a gun show open until 7 so that somebody who might work on Friday or Saturday could actually
How
go
about
to
a
the gun show?
24-hour gun show? That'd be kind of cool.
Huh?
A 24-hour gun show. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, that might be pushing it, but yeah, certainly the venue could be 24/7, and that's I guess what I was getting at. So yeah, there's I think a lot that they're missing out on just because promoters are satisfied and they're not eager, like ambitious or whatever. But I think if you start looking at gun shows being one of the arteries or one of the things that the life of Second Amendment can pulse through, it's an important piece because it's the only place a gun shop can do business outside of their brick and mortar. That gives it some power and some potential, and I don't want necessarily say it's got to be politics, but there could certainly be a lot more going on. And I think if you made gun shows just a lot more faceted, whatever, make them more interesting and more flavorful, you're going to find more people interested in them. And then what'll happen is the shows will start to compete with each other, and the interest will fan or fuel more experiments or whatever the word is, like types of shows. How about getting some gun shops to open some digital range, like a mall with not real guns to get people in guns? I mean, I've seen some things like that, but yeah, exactly. You never know. Like there could be all kinds of crazy potentials. Now, just having activities or just having rides and attractions is one thing, but like I say, there's lots and lots of time there, and they're only using 16 hours of it. Um, I don't know. There could just be something as simple as have some fun with the shows. Take 10 booths and say as soon as these booths get to $100 in sales, something happens or something, or find some items and you tag them, and if somebody brings the tag up, something happens. Or I don't know.
Easter eggs
There's
or
just a
something.
lot of potential that they're just letting it go off tradition, and what worked yesterday is going to work tomorrow.
Well, I think a lot of it, what it's come down to as well, and I've seen it locally. I can't, but locally, I think what's happened is a lot of these brokers and the whatever you want to call them, the gun show promoters, they're trying to find the cheapest venue and do the least amount of work to make the most maximize profit. And instead of getting, like you said, getting creative again and changing the way that gun shows are, that's kind of what you're talking about. Is I hear people all the time, I'm not going to go to the gun show. Well, why not? Well, you've been to one, you've been to them all. They're all the same. And that's the kind of lull. That's probably one of the reasons why they're not as popular is you go, no matter what town you're in, a gun show is a gun show. But if you do something creative, like you said, little Easter eggs throughout there, or have the promoter, like, I love after SHOT Show, we do the little SHOT Show bingo. What if the promoter did something like a gun show, bingo, and force people to do stuff like that?
A scavenger hunt.
A scavenger hunt.
What if they made a gun show into a cosplay thing, or they call it like a con, like a gun con, and now you get a prize for wearing an authentic uniform or an authentic mock-up of a TV show or a movie or whatever, a video game even. What if they had an electronic blah 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 tournament, and like again, they're going to have the whole venue for the evening. Like, what if they brought in LAN stuff and had a LAN party, and it was somehow the person who wins using a Garand wins a Garand or something like that, or what I mean, like soapbox derby and stuff isn't supposed to appeal to everybody, but it appeals to people when they actually are participating in it or whatever. And what I mean, like there's things like that where if our goal is to just bring in people to see the show, you have an attraction or a thing to do. But if your goal is to solidify the community, then get grandparents and grandkids together. Give them a reason to get together. Like
take a little portion of the building and do like a laser tag thing for the kids to play in while
I don't mean like entertainment, like I'm going to let my grandkids be entertained while I go to the gun show, but I want to see something where the father, son, or grandpa, grandkid tournament where they're going to have to play not laser tag, but video game. And then they're going to have to take it apart and show their grandpa how to put it back together, like team up kids with grandpas. And, the kid gets to play video games for one round, and then they have to learn how to take it apart and put it back together from a grandpa the second round. But like something that gets the kids wanting to go to this thing, not because they're going to be entertained, but because it's a new thing that they can't wait to see and talk about and tell everybody else what happened this weekend. I don't know, that's all I'm getting. It's not like hockey or something where I'm going to go watch because, it's a game and blah, blah, blah. Like there's all these traditions and stuff, but people are drawn to the hockey because of all of that. Like there's nothing drawing people to gun shows unless they're motivated to purchase something. And that doesn't need to exist. Gun shows can be a whole nother thing. People don't go to flea markets because they're like, oh, I need that thing I don't know that somebody's selling. They go to a flea market because, they can eat that day or they don't know what they're going to find. But, there's things that bring them to it. And then the stuff they find enhances that or adds to it.
There was, when I was growing up in Dallas, I think I want to say at the time it was, I don't know if it still is, but the largest state fair in America was the Texas State Fair in Dallas. And they always had a huge gun show as part of the state fair. So that was incorporated into the state fair, which I thought was kind of cool. And I haven't seen that anywhere else besides in Dallas. Then again, I haven't been to a lot of state fairs, but something like that would be interesting, is incorporating a gun show with another big event, not just a standalone gun show,
Well, what if they had a little bit of community involvement too? Like, say, if you have your stamp or your ticket from the gun show, you can get 10% off at Bob's Restaurant afterwards or something like that, or a discount at this hotel or something like that, or a free this or a free that, discount at a range that weekend,
Absolutely.
I have seen that before.
Like a weekend pass at the local range, for people traveling, Hey, I just bought 4 guns at the gun show and I really want to go shoot them. Well, hey, take your ticket stub and you can go to that range right down the road and shoot all you want. I love that idea.
I mean, they're going to sell ammo. They might get you to come back if you like their range. So it gets you in the door.
I love it. That's a great idea. You know, another thing, let's just take Wanamaker, for instance, because I think that Wanamaker, you're talking about museums and collectors and all that. You know, I don't understand why Wanamaker doesn't try to get involved with J.M. Davis saying, hey, you know, tonight, J.M. Davis is staying open until 10 o'clock tonight. So if you're interested and you haven't been over there just for this weekend only, after the gun show's over, head on 20 minutes up the road, check out the J.M. Davis Museum. I don't know why they don't get J.M. involved with that.
Could you imagine if that parking lot was full?
Can you
I
imagine?
bet
Yeah,
that
can
parking
you
lot
imagine how
hardly
much
ever
money
gets full.
JM would take? I mean, they could make so much money just on that weekend.
Well, yeah.
$5 donations here and there. I mean, good Lord, you know.
There's definitely some potential. There's a couple of museums, well, just in Tulsa, because they could do something with Willow Rock too. Did you get up to Willow Rock this time?
I didn't. I got there. Y'all went there Friday, and I didn't get there until Friday night, so I didn't get the chance to make it.
But yeah, there's a couple of different things just in Tulsa, but just in Oklahoma too. There's things. So,
Yeah, the Will
well,
Rogers. I mean, you have all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
we're talking Tulsa, though. That's basically unique. It is literally the largest. It's been going on for a long time. It's difficult because even if you said something like, go check it out on the ticket stub, think about how many people go to there. Like, you would literally flood whatever it is. So if you told them, like, I mean, there's only like 3 restaurants right next to the place. But I mean,
Right.
they're already full probably anyway, just because of so many people letting out. But if you told them all, hey, there's 10% off, some incentive to go to that restaurant, like, it'd be slammed. You know what I mean? Like, so there's only so much that, but I hear you. Like, there's a normal gun show. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. But like I say, I have seen gun shops that'll say, if your hand is stamped with the gun show, you know, something, or ranges that'll say free shooting if you're stamped with the gun show. And they'll often have like a table there at the gun show telling people.
Sure. Sure.
I'm going
Yeah,
to
I
narrow
really
cast
love
out
the
here.
idea about the range. I really love that idea.
I'm going to narrowcast to Chris, who asked a question in an email the other day. Yankee didn't buy that panel. I just, when I was playing with patch panels, I made some in shapes and sent them to people, just as, because they weren't good. I was just testing my machine and see if they would work or whatever. So the machine I used, I cut the carpet's made in Georgia. I cut the carpet, basically it's really thin. What's it called? Like, I would say it's like what you'd put on a speaker cabinet. It's really thin. It's just more substantial than felt, but it's just basically felt, or a stiff felt. But because it's just carpet, I was cutting it and the edges would fray. So I was putting this, I don't know what to call it, edge on there with this machine that I got. And when I was jamming, probably a Texas or an Oklahoma, somewhere where there's a right angle, I was jamming into the right angle on that machine, and it kind of went goofy on me. And all the little, it looks like a crayfish mouth. Like, it looks really goofy where the sewing machine needles are. Like 3 or 4 needles all collided into each other, and now it won't do it anymore. Like, it doesn't work. The thing only cost me like $100 something, and it cost $90 something an hour to fix the damn thing. So I'm in a bind. I can't afford to fix the machine because I could just buy a new machine, and I don't really feel like buying a new machine because that's the only thing I do with it. So that's a long ass way of saying, it's not that I don't want to build those things for people. It's just that the only machine I had to build them is broke, and it's prohibitive to buy another one just to keep making those things.
Yeah.
If I knew I could sell enough of those panels, I would buy a new machine. It's just that I suspect, because the machine costs like almost $200, I would probably buy another $200 into it, or put $200 into buying that machine, and I'd probably sell like 2 more patch panels ever. Because like I said, I gave away more than I actually sold of those patch panels. Anyway, so that's just
I'd buy one.
I don't have it somewhere.
I'd buy one. But I'm not. I know you're, like you said, you're not going to go get it fixed for 1 or 2, and I get that.
And my goal isn't to have, like, you know, a job making little knickknacks for people. I do that because I had the machine and I was trying to come up with something to be able to do 2A stuff or whatever. But so anyway, yeah, would have whipped out more of them. I've got an idea to do it a different way. It's just that it's just an idea, and I have to go with it or whatever to actually attempt it. But with that said, we got SHOT Show coming up in not too long. So
A month from today, I'm leaving. I'll be flying out a month from today.
So about 4 weeks. So I don't know. I'm not one to just watch. I mean, this is my 15th year. Might be my last year. I'm getting sick of these things already. So I'm not interested in just doing something to say I've done it. I like to see the transition. We've got hiccups. I like to see the transition or the change or the evolution, ideally, the growth. Now, Gary's in here, so he gets the brunt of this because he's only never even gone yet. But you've experienced it. So somebody going for the first time in 2020, I think is like somebody going for the third time. I'm just saying, because you know what it is. It's not like you're coming out of it. You've never heard of this before. You've never been to a show before. You're kind of ahead of the game. You're like a kid who's got 3 or 4 older brothers and sisters going into high school. You pretty much know it's coming, right? Everybody else goes into high school barely seeing some movies and barely knowing what's going on. So you're a little ahead of the curve. But at the same time, I was telling these guys the other day, the people that are going for their first year, I guess to some extent you're allowed to take your first year and experience it, right? Take it all in, try to figure it out. But now Ghost is what, your third?
Yeah.
So you're going into your third year. How many years are you going to waste if you just try to figure it all out? Because I've been going for 15 and you can't ever just figure it out. Like you're never going to, oh, okay, now I got it all figured out. Now let me get in there and start attacking it, right? Like, you know what I mean? There's some kind of balance between figuring out that it's big and that it's too much to grasp and then digging in and then digging in so soon that you haven't figured out what you're digging into. Because, you know what I mean? That could be just as bad.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was my first years. I just went head in and just literally dove into the deep end and said, well, it's been nice knowing you. I hope I see you at the top of the water. Hope I come back up. And I did, and I enjoyed that. Then last year I took a little different approach. And this year I'm going to take a little different approach as well, and I think that if you go in with a plan, it's wonderful, but understand that plan's going to change by 1 o'clock on Tuesday, and you still got 3 days left. So a plan is wonderful, but you got to be fluid with that. And I learned that the first year I just stuck to my plan, and I'm not going to lie, I wore myself out, like physically almost got worn out. Last year I paced myself a little differently, had different agendas. This year I have a couple different agendas as well, but I think it's really, go in with a plan, but understand that by lunchtime on the first day, that plan just going to be shredded. You just have to be fluid with it.
Okay, well that's not bad advice. No, I'm just trying to let that sit because it's good advice or whatever. But then the people that are new this year are Gary, Snob, and Obnoxious, who have all been to NRA. No. 2 of them have been to NRA. They've all been to Wanamaker multiple times. And they've all watched y'all go to your first years at SHOT, and then your second years at SHOT. They watched Sarge go to his first SHOT. They watched Armenta go to her first SHOT, right? So it's not like they're in a bubble and they've coming up for the first time at SHOT Show and they've never picked up a camera before. They're fluent with their technology and their channels. They've got established stuff. So, I've got just as much tendency to tell people to chill and enjoy life and experience the moment at SHOT Show. You just made it to SHOT. I got just as much enthusiasm to tell them, what the hell are you sitting around here for? You've got more potential than anybody in the world. Like, you could wait 15 years to get your bearings and you'll still not have your bearings. So bite now, dig in. Like, there's people that go to SHOT their first year who I think have no business even being in the industry and walk out of SHOT Show with more money than I've probably made in my career. And I'm not even kidding. And I can think of multiple people like that. There's just people that understand how to make a business deal and understand that gun people are kind of dumb. We're naive and we're what's the word? Like we're gullible, I guess. We are trusting, and if somebody's nice to us, we're nice to them. It's just the way we are. We're so used to being abused, right? That when somebody's actually nice to us, we're nice to them. And we don't question a lot until we get hurt, and we're gullible for that. We get abused quite often, actually. So I get frustrated, and that's why there's some people who I won't acknowledge, I won't talk to, I won't trust them because they've come in with that attitude. And some of them acted like they've changed, but you come in with that attitude, that was there, you have that attitude in you, right? I know there's a lot of more gun people. Most gun people don't even have that in them. Anyway, so there's that being said, there's certainly, it is the industry, and we're not a small industry, and there's potential to go in there and come out with some money. That's just a quick way of saying there's a potential to go in there and come out with a lot of resource. But you can come out of SHOT Show with as many contacts and what's the word, like what's the word? I guess contacts, but as much relationships to make your channels, your projects, and your goals completely fulfilled. And it doesn't matter at all if we're talking about money here, or just if you had a bunch of ideas that you'd like to do with your project or your channel or whatever, you can go accomplish all those in your first year and then take on new goals and challenges. You could accomplish those in your first year and feel like you've done something and then move on to your next thing. Like that was your gun thing. And I don't have a problem with that too. If somebody's like got multiple things they want to do and guns is one of them, come in and accomplish that in 1 year, good, because now you've set the foundation for other people to be able to do that too. But at the other hand, like I say, I'm always tied between that and just let people do their thing. Here's the other thing though. I'm gonna quit saying that because I'm not trying to just push people, but I'm gonna start now just pushing people. You got Ghost and Clover who've been going for this is your third year? Third year. You got Sarge, second year. And I don't know where Angelina's at. Marco, fifth year. Pink, fourth year. I've never known a bigger, more dynamic group of people that weren't out to try to kill each other, cut each other's throats, or weren't all in the same team. You know what I mean? Like, we're in a unique situation as fellow gun channels people. We've all got abilities and skill sets, and everybody's got their own projects. So they're all self-sufficient. Not everybody is tied to each other. So that's an advantage, I think. That's something that, we don't have to all walk in lockstep. On the other hand, and at the same time, nobody's going that they're like tethered to anyone. They're tied to anybody that needs to have somebody else succeed or fail. But at the other hand, nobody's forcing anybody to do all that shit. But what I'm saying, like, what happens if everyone did work together? Like I was throwing it out there. I think the Sarges or Obnoxious's chat the other day. Has anyone ever attempted to record every single booth at SHOT Show? And how would you do that? Would you do it with one individual or one entity, or would you have to do that with a bunch of people? And what if you didn't want to get everything at SHOT Show, everything of value at SHOT Show?
Yeah. Well, and I think it comes down to also is
11 people going to do SHOT Show in a different way, perhaps.
Yeah. And this is something that I've done, especially a lot last year with Armenthea, because Armenthea was kind of overwhelmed. Over that first day, she had a little nervous breakdown. But the next couple of days, she kind of found a groove. But, I'd be down the dungeon or I'd be wherever, and I would see something that my channel and I personally would have no desire to talk or work with these people because it just doesn't fit what my projects are. But it's something that I thought would be right up the alley for Sarge or for Clover or for Armenthea or whoever or Gary or Obnoxious or Snob. And I'd say, I'd send it, try a little group text message area, and I'd say, hey, Gary, you might want to go check out booth number 1158. It's down the dungeon. I think it's something you would enjoy. And I think that if you're able to kind of take the blinders off and like you said, work your ass off, because I work my ass off, but I'm also looking for things that I think are interesting that need to be, promoted, but it just doesn't fall into what I'm interested in. Well, I know someone probably there that would be right up their alley. So boom, get that group text message. Hey, Gary, when you get a chance, I've talked to this guy. It's booth 1158. His name is John. I told him you might be coming down here. It's going to be right up your alley. that's the kind of thing that I enjoy is people trying to help out and say, look, this doesn't interest me at all, but that is right up Gary, or that's right up Snob's alley, and I think they would enjoy that. And that's where it's kind of cool, where you kind of have a team, and it's like you said, we're not under one flag, but we're all friends and we're all there to help each other out. Like I have no problem. I told Snob last night off air. I said, I know that you've got Obnoxious and you got Sarge, but if for some reason someone's come up and you need an interview and you need a cameraman and no one can get there, text me. I'll be up there. And it's nice to know that you've got support there for sure. Because my first year, if I didn't, and I know that, there are people that, but even to this certain extent, Tack Daddy, Tack, you helped me out, Yankee, everybody was there, were helping me out my first year. And that's what it's all about. If I didn't have that support system, I would have had the mental breakdown probably, because it is very overwhelming, especially that first day.
Like as soon as I started coming up with all kinds of ways Gary can do stuff for everybody else, when he goes to SHOT Show, he jumps out of here. Like all of a sudden he's too tired. No, I don't know. Well, you've, like I say, we've been going for a long time. Had our ups and downs and our waxing and waning of interests or whatever, like ambition, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, I think there's, I don't know. I just like to, like I say, I'd rather see things change, and they don't all have to be successes. I just prefer to see people stretch and do something out of the comfort zones every once in a while, but at the same time, so that the comfort zones allow you to accomplish so much more. That's why you get stronger, right? So that you can accomplish more effortlessly. And when you need to, you can do, extraordinary things or whatever, but cannot film other exhibitors' booths without permission. Yeah, you can't do service stuff. You couldn't walk around SHOT Show, for example, and say, for X amount of dollars, I will video record your booth for you and then send it to you after SHOT Show. Like that would be considered hawking a service around the floor, and you would get escorted out and never return to SHOT Show. You're not allowed to do that. They wouldn't probably kick you right out, but if you persisted doing that and more than one person complained, I'm sure you'd never get invited back again. And I don't know why. I guess because they'd want you to set up a booth for that or something.
Probably. I don't know. I get that side of it as to why they wouldn't, but
well, I think it's because you're paying $18,000 for the real estate. Then however much fanciness you want to make your booth, the last thing you want is the people that walk up to take your time to, that are there. You only got so many hours that you're literally just paid $18,000 for this real estate. They're only going to let people stand in front of it for 4 days for 8 hours a day. If any amount of that time is someone trying to sell you some service, like screw that. I'm not paying
I get that.
to get sold to, right? So I get that part of it. But that's obviously like an extreme too. Like if you're not charging them, for example, and you're just taking video, that's exactly what we do. So that's not no problem. But anyway, I don't know. I just thought of as I was doing some stuff here, looking at the 11 or so people that are going to be showing up. We got me and Joe. We've been going since 2005 every single year. Angie, Joe's wife, started going in 10. So this is 10 years she's been going. She hasn't gone every single year, but she's been dealing with it every single year we've been going. Their one kid was born the first year we went, and their second kid was born the second year we went. So we've definitely had we've been going to SHOT Show for a while. This is Gary's first year. He just dumped out. Yankee started going in 2014, so this is his 6th year at SHOT Show. Marco started going in 15, so he's going for 5 years. Marco, 17, so this is his 4th SHOT Show. You guys started in 18, so it's you and Chris and Clover's 3rd year. Armentha's and Sarge came last year for the first time, so this will be their 2nd year. And then we got Snob, Obnoxious, and you say Gary showing up for the 1st year. Angelina, I don't know how long she's been going, but she's got her booth for the first time. The Bishops are out there. They were a pop-up booth, I think, last year. They got their real booth this year. We miss anybody gun channels wise?
mentioned Pink. I think
Yeah,
it's
he's in there. He started in
is
17.
Smeggy going to be able to make it?
Smeggy
Probably
has
not.
gone before, but no, he's not going this year that I'm aware of. Not for
Okay.
with any of us, at least. But
Okay.
yeah, Bob has gone before. Smeggy's gone. Jimmy was on the books. He never went. Um, we had some other people for gun websites over the years. And like I say, it's not like we're going there as an army of 11 people to do something. But I'm just thinking that, for example, I think we might have talked about it in past years, but if everyone were to say, end their interviews or end their conversations that were on film with, and what's your favorite gun owners' rights group? And we all ask the
Right.
same question. That would be
Right.
Joe and I, who probably don't do too much compared to the rest of you, but that's, our people asking our people stuff is going to be different than some. Gary and Snob and Obnoxious, their first year, that's going to be a different kind of response they're going to get just because they're new to this all. Sarge Armenta, they're going to have, again, kind of whatever that would be called, like, the apprehension of, still doing this kind of new or whatever, the awkwardness. I'm sure you guys are past that. Pink and Marco, same thing. Like, you guys are already starting to develop relationships. The answer is you guys are going to get it quite different. If everyone were to do that and then we were to accumulate all that at the end, that would be just a neat variety. As if, like, let's say some blog or some YouTube channel or some, I don't know, normal group of people, they're pretty much uniform. They're pretty much similar. So if they all went and asked a question like that, they're pretty much going to get answers from cops or from, military or from competitive shooters. With our group, that's going to be a mix of questions coming back from all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Plus, I'm thinking something
Well,
like that might be a thing. If we were able to all think about, I don't know, like if everyone grabbed swag, a second piece of swag or something, or like and then all of that swag from 11 people, every time we got something extra, went into one pot to do something, like how big of a pile of swag would that be? And by
yeah,
the time we all
absolutely.
did that, how many duplicates would there be? We'd probably end up with like 3 or 4 unique piles of swag, without having, by the time we all got duplicates from 11 people.
Oh yeah.
If we all tagged a specific hashtag or maybe a specific video, or we all came up with something like, blah, 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 this effort or this cause or something, and then we all tagged it. Like, would that be something? What if we all contributed to a blog or, something? I'm just trying to think of ways that, we can bring these 11 people to do something different in Sean.
Well, I think that, and I don't know why we haven't the last few years, but when we go to Wanamaker, we always use a specific hashtag on Instagram and all of that to where we can kind of catalog all the information to take to the Wanamakers and kind of show. But why wouldn't we use our own unique hashtag for SHOT Show? That would be kind of cool, on at least on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I like
I
that
guess
idea.
it's
I don't
just
know
a way
why
to
we haven't done that before.
index it a second way or another way. It's not like every picture, but every time you want a picture to be in that mix, it's
Exactly.
there.
Tag that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know why we haven't done that the last couple of years, because I think that especially now with the new YouTube thing, and I really never went live at a booth. I have never gone live at a booth at SHOT Show just because I think the audio is just too damn bad to do anything live. But now that you can't handle guns, and people say, "Oh, well, you don't have to handle the guns at SHOT Show." No, I might not have to handle the guns, but there's 7,000 other people in that one booth. They're going to be handling those guns, and I can't regulate what's going on behind the shot. So I'm not gonna. I don't think that people going live this year at SHOT Show. So I think Instagram, as far as getting pictures out, will be huge this year at SHOT Show. And if we could, like you said, come up with a unique little hashtag that only us know about, that way when we get done, the week after, we could have a little fun little chat or something on Daily Gun Show and go through our hashtags. Like if we all thought, okay, don't, like you said, don't hashtag every picture, but hashtag certain things. We're looking for certain things. Like do what do you call it? The SHOT Show bingo, but we do it through hashtags through Instagram. So if you find something that's on that bingo list, you got to take a picture of it, you put that hashtag, and then we can kind of come back and do SHOT Show bingo through Instagram. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it would be. That's an easy way to do it too. But yeah, and then each show or each whatever could go back and look through that hashtag, because again, the audiences that come into XYZ show is going to be different than the audiences that come to 123 show, and then you're both looking at the same pile of pictures that everybody contributed to. And it's just again a way just because I don't know, nobody sees everything, and that's just a way for us all to contribute. So maybe the only caveat, maybe we have a couple, have hashtag Gun Channels SHOT Show or something for anything you want just to be in the Gun Channels mix, like the G picks or the, I don't know, you met somebody or this kind of thing, you put those into the Gun Channels pile. Then you got a pile for the bingo, right? We come up with maybe like a 2A rally. It'd be neat to, one of the other things that I'd like to see, we've been chatting about, I don't know, kind of general stuff, I guess, but it is the industry event, and there's other places that are more appropriate for 2A stuff, and there's only so much time at SHOT Show, even though it is a week long, that the time is valuable, and multitasking or getting everybody, asking people to do more than one thing is asking a lot, perhaps too much, but at the same time, acknowledging all that and accepting all of that, I'd still like to see SHOT Show an opportunity for the entire industry to get together in one town every single year. I'd like it to see come way more 2A. And I don't think you need to force the show to become 2A. I believe that as 2A becomes more important to us, the industry will cater to that importance. The same way that it was important for us to see things in video. It was important for us to see things on digital, on the internet. The only thing I can offer from my 15 years is that when I started going there, it was difficult to take a picture. And now they anticipate it. They expect that photographs and video are going to be a major part of their whole reason to go to SHOT. In fact, some people who are new probably think that SHOT Show is for media because we are the ones that tell people about their new product. But it was literally not like that. And that wasn't because NSSF said, you're going to start taking more pictures, or because anybody. Trump didn't say start taking more pictures at SHOT Show. People just saw that the pictures were being taken by people like me and Mil-Spec Monkey more, and the godfathers of taking pictures there would be Military Moron and no, I'm not going to think of everybody. Mix Flip was taking them even back then. Gun Blast was taking a little bit of YouTube stuff, but mostly Mil-Spec Monkey, Military Moron, and I'll think of the other guy in a minute, but I'm not trying to think of them. But those guys were literally taking 90% of the pictures. It was actually another guy who I can never remember his name because he never talked to anybody. He was just a picture guy. But there was these pictures, these guys that would take all the pictures for all the forums. And then if you don't remember this, like all the forums would pass around about 4 or 5 people's pictures. And that's when I started going to SHOT Show because they didn't take pictures of AKs. As far as they were concerned, AKs didn't exist. They were shit guns. So I would go for the AK forums and for my friends because I was going as media so that I could take pictures. I got sick of going to SHOT Show and not being able to take pictures of the AKs. And those people wouldn't take pictures of AKs. They take pictures of 1911s and fucking rail guns or stupid shit. So, I started going 5 with a camera just to take pictures of AKs and stuff. And then the forums would start passing those pictures around. And then the next year, 6, the stupid Ruger ACR, the Ruger 556. How was that thing called? No, the SIG 556. The SIG 556 came out. The SIG AR proprietary weird thing came out. And that was the biggest thing since sliced bread, like a new gun from SIG. Oh my goodness. And the assault weapons ban had ended recently. So, it's a big thing. New platform ARs weren't big yet in 2006. They weren't bee's knees yet. They were just another stupid gun Colt was making. So this stupid SIG came out and people were like, hey, can you take pictures of that? And I took pictures of that and put them out. Like that was the kind of thing I walked in on Friday. Back then it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. SHOT Show was different back in the day. So I walked in on Friday, took pictures of that thing, walked out and posted them online, and I was an internet hero. Like holy
Right.
crap, you got the first pictures of this SIG gun out. Like that was a big deal in six. Stupid people like me just doing that kind of stupid thing, and the people that were putting a little more effort into it are what got those people to figure out that it wasn't just airsofters trying to duplicate our shit in Japan, like that are taking pictures. Like the internet actually cares. The internet matters. These conversations matter. I took a video accidentally before shot one year, 2014 maybe, with Costa when he was out here teaching a Magpul class. He was still with Magpul. I think it might have been his last Magpul class. And he had a LaRue gun. And we took a video of it because that was our nature. We would take videos when he came out. And I posted it and it got like 11,000 views in like the first minute or two. And then LaRue got all pissed. They're like, oh, we were going to show that at shot. What the fuck? So like, you know, it's a thing already by whatever that was, 12. And now, like I say, it would be unheard of for someone to have a booth at SHOT Show where they're not facilitating video. I'm surprised they don't have rooms or whatever already, where you already can go into rooms to get rid of audio and issues. So I was to say they probably have sound rooms now with soundproofing on them.
It was interesting this last year. I can't remember. I think it was Tuesday night. I was over at a manufacturer's little get together. They rented a house and all that. And I was talking with their social media guy, and awesome little conversation. And he was saying that in the last 3 years, this is last year, so the previous would be like what, 17, 16, and 15. The last 3 years, they've cut their marketing budget by 75% on money that they're spending on marketing and advertising, because they don't have to anymore because they're getting so much free advertising at SHOT Show. They love it. They love when people are coming by with cameras because you're saving them money.
Dude, imagine if they were like, you know, like SIG or whoever this is, like, oh, we got to spend X amount of dollars to make some marketing campaign. And they come back and they go, here's your blue marketing campaign with triangles on it. And they're like, all right. And then they go to SHOT Show and it's all the rage to have orange circles or whatever. And they're like, dang, we missed, right? If they just go to SHOT Show and go, hey, we're cool. You want to take video? We'll answer questions. Here's about our gun. Here's why we do it. Blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? The orange triangles are going to come up. The blue circles are going to come up. The whole purples are going to come up. And they're all going to take video and they're all going to either present it, you know, positively or not. But now they didn't have to worry about hitting the right color shape combo.
Exactly.
It came to them, yeah.
Yeah, they can. Here's my product, and I'm going to get on 1,000 different perspectives of one product, because everyone's going to come at it from a different way. Where I might look at a gun and I'm going to do a review on it. Well, I might come at from the idea of concealed carry, you know, because one of my projects that I'm working on for 2020 is going to be called Carry 365, and it's talking about just carrying every day.
That's too many.
What's
I
that?
can understand two. Carrying 365 guns is too many. I can't even carry that many.
Well, you know, I'm a big guy, you know.
But
what I'm talking about, it's called Carry 365, and that's one project that I'm gonna be working on a lot for next year. Well, when I go look at guns, yes, I'm gonna go look at the cool guns, but I'm gonna go try to find cool carry guns and guns that are built and were marketed for concealed carry, not the 1911s and the Deagles and all that, but look at the cool guns that each company's now, you know, and I don't know, but I mean, 10 years ago when you were going 10, 15 years ago, there were very few companies that were creating guns that were designed specifically for concealed carry. Now, I would imagine that every manufacturer's got at least one gun in their lineup that's designed specifically for concealed carry. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is do a Carry 365 and worry about that. Well, guess what? I might look at this one gun and say, this is going to be a good option for concealed carry, or this might not be a good option for concealed carry. But then Clover might come by that same booth and see the same gun, and he might sit there and say, "Oh, this would be a great one for competition." Where I'm saying, I don't think is what you're going to be looking for concealed carry. But that same gun's going to be reached by 1,000 different people from 1,000 different perspectives, and you can't buy that kind of marketing and advertising. You can't. There's no way that even Glock or Ruger could afford to buy that kind of marketing attention. Which is, I think that's, like you said, I think that that's kind of what you guys did when you started taking
Well,
cameras.
that's what we all are creating, and that's the environment that exists now. So
Yeah.
even if they wanted to, you can. I mean, they shouldn't say you can't because they definitely could spend the money. Somebody would take their money and do something. It's just that it would be super ineffective and dumb waste of money, right? But yeah, and that's just because there's this environment, and we're at the beginning of it. So this isn't the end of nothing. This isn't the answer and the solution to, and it's all done. It might be the solution for a minute or two, and it might not, because we don't know what tech is around the corner and what's going to be next. Right now, we're still sitting in a position where we got phones and we got cameras, pretty much inexpensive, and they're pretty awesome, super awesome compared to what it was just a couple of days ago. Distribution is pretty awesome, no matter what you want to minutely focus on as far as little independent glitches here and there. Distribution is massive, and skill sets and abilities, thanks again to these awesome platforms everybody explains about, we'll be able to take tutorials and learn skills and have access to tools that are just incredible. So we're all making high production level stuff. Even the worst of us are making quality level garbage, right? Or else really high production level works, and all contributing to this, to multiple platforms at this point. So there's a lot of good stuff coming out of it. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and they were saying about shot. Chris said, I want to go now. I know regular people can go. So you have to be industry. It is an industry show, so it's not like open to the public. And that's, I don't know, probably just facilitation wise, it's just a big thing. And only so many people can fit in the building. And there's probably more demand than can just fit in there, even with people traveling. So they just can't open it up to people in Vegas because there's too many people in Vegas would walk in to look at it, right? So I don't think that there's anything secret in there necessarily. It's just for the, what's the word? Like to facilitate it or whatever. They just put invite only or whatever. So you have to be in the industry. So I'm only prefacing all that with that anybody can be in the industry. There's all kinds of level of industry. It's hardly restrictive. It's you have to register, but it's not like it's difficult or they put prohibitions.
It's restrictive enough. It's restrictive enough that the lazy normal human being that doesn't want to do anything won't go through the 10 minutes to get registered. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's basically if you're at all in the industry, you can go, and if you give it any kind of effort and you're willing to help out in the industry, you could go also. So it's not too difficult to go. Now, if you go as regular industry, it's $250, so it's not inexpensive to go. They charge you. Now, I don't know how it works because I do know a lot of people that go or have gone with their gun shops or with their ranges or with their clubs. And I don't know. So sometimes I guess like it's possible that they get like packages or something, like multiple tickets or something, because people do hand out tickets to go to SHOT occasionally. Or if you know a group that's going, it's not impossible to go with the group. So it must not cost. And I know that some of these people aren't paying $250. I just know it. So I'm thinking like if some of the groups get passes for free and then somebody doesn't use them, it's probably possible to go for free, like in that role, like with a nonprofit or something, right? Maybe with a hunting group or a shooting group or a club or a range or something, or like I say, a gun shop might be going. Now, as far as like military and law enforcement, I doubt, unless without credentials, if you're not like sworn, you're probably not going with law enforcement, but I don't want to rule that out. So any industry can go. We always go as media, of course, because, well, they used to be real strict. Now they're way less and less strict about cameras, but technically the only people who are supposed to be taking pictures there are the media. So they make us jump through a different hurdle to go as media, but then it's free. So that makes it even better. So you don't have to pay a dime to go, except for getting to Vegas. So if you want to go as media, in a nutshell, they just want to make sure that you have an audience, right, somewhere. So there's certain things they won't take. They won't take just Twitter or just Instagram. But I think most of the other platforms they'll take if you're large enough following or presence. There might be even more qualifications. So if you're interested, and like Go said, it's maybe more than 10 minutes to go the media route, but certainly not 10 months, right? You could get a project going and go to SHOT next year.
No doubt. And Chris is out there saying he's confused. And you know, my local gun shop goes, and it's a small town, but they go. Yeah, I think obviously they do deals. They want to find out what stuff's coming out so they can know what they're going to be doing. But I think they just like enjoy being at SHOT Show. So if you've got a local gun shop that might be going, ask them, do you have an extra spot? And I'll be willing to, whatever. But there's ways that you can get in. I mean, hell, you know, if you know someone who goes as media, you know, there are those of us that would say, hey, and I've told a bunch of my friends, I'm not going to pay for you to go. I'll get you in. But if you want to go under my crew, then I can get you in. I'm not going to pay for you. But there are ways to get in if you really want to.
Yeah, no, not so much this year, only because it's like 4 weeks away. Probably be a little tougher.
Well, by now it's
Yeah.
tough. Yeah.
But just because of the size of the show and the time frame. But for next year, it'd be completely doable to create a project and go as your own, or to create a relationship and go with someone. But that said, it's 10,000 people there, 60,000 attendees, something like that. 10,000 people that run the show, and then 60,000 attendees. 2,000 media, 2,500 media.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think that's the
I
scale.
want to say like 75,000 people is what they're estimating every year. Is that about right? Including everybody?
I guess, yeah. I'm trying to remember if I know I heard 60 or something one year, and I don't remember if that meant just the attendees or if that also meant, I forget how many tables are there or whatever you call like
Booths.
attendees as far as like the people who set up booths.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put in booths at SHOT Show and see what happens. Now,
Now,
there's also.
I know that last year they were talking about moving the supplier showcase off site. Have you heard? Are they doing that this year or no?
Oh, yeah, they did that.
They did that? Okay.
I don't know why. It seems stupid. So we'll just screen share here and go look at SHOT Show a little bit. Don't get scared. This is one monitor. This is us over here. This is a whole thing. I say monitor, whole nother window over here. So this is SHOT Show. We'll go to exhibitors.
Exhibitors.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong place. Attendees. Where am I? I'm looking for the list. This is what I'm looking for. Exhibitor list. And then 2,500 exhibitors. Now, here's the thing. You think that if they got like Benchmade as a good example, and Spyderco maybe, but the knife companies, they'll set up one in the hunting area. They'll set up one in the knife area, and then they'll set up one in the law enforcement area, and maybe more if there's need, like a food area or something. Like, so some of these will maybe be in here 3 times, and I'm wondering if that is a factor in this 2,500, or if that would count as just Benchmade. See how like A+ has 2 things, so maybe that is just, even though this one has 2 booths. See what I'm saying? 2 booths.
It's probably got to be just the companies. 2,500 exhibitors means 2,500 companies. And that probably doesn't even count how many booths there are.
I tend to agree,
There's a hell of
because
a
the
lot more than
booths are over here
2,500 booths.
incorporated. It's not like it's armchair 1, armchair lower level, armchair 3. It's just armchair. So I'm thinking that's 2,500 exhibitors, but who knows how many booths? Some number more than that booths. Maybe
There's
3,000.
2,500 booths just in a section of just in one section of the dungeon. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this is, yeah, because I mean, and the other thing with SHOT Show is it's different than a gun show where pretty much all the sections are uniform. At SHOT Show, some of them will be an entire city block, where some of them are like a condominium where there's like a whole bunch of them in like one booth. Like some of the international ones kind of like are piled on top of each other, sharing booths with each other. And then Glock has like the entire section. Like Remington has like a whole section. Ruger will have a half a section next to the stairs or whatever. So the equivalent of like a dozen booths or whatever. So some of these are big and small. So, and then this whole thing is huge. Let's see if we can get a floor plan. Boom. So we know there's 2,500 exhibitors. Does it tell us how many attendees there are? I guess I got to go back to home. Maybe here, attendees. Facts, maybe facts. Sometimes they do a fact to tell you.
They might go through last year's numbers.
Huh?
They might give you last year's numbers somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like you can get a badge for being a buyer, a non-buyer, LE, law enforcement or military, buyer, law enforcement not buyer, non-exhibiting manufacturer, or a material supplier to exhibitors. So you're there and you're a manufacturer, but you're not set up. It's costing you $400 or more, up to $500. If you're there and you're buying stuff at the show, $35. No problem. That's what we built the show for. If you get it at the last minute, it's $100. So right now it would cost you $100 already, but it only costs you $35 because that's what the show is for, people that are buying stuff. Now, if you're a non-buyer, if you're just leeching off of some buyer, that's the $350. But you can get that down to $2 something if you cry, because they want you there anyway. They just want your money too. The buyers for the military, same thing. Like, we want you here. This is what it's for. Selling to law enforcement and military is a priority. We really don't charge anything. Now, if you're just hanging out in your military law enforcement, they are cutting down on that. For a couple of years. They didn't even let you in. Now they're letting you in, but they're charging for it. Because these guys, honestly, are a bunch of jerks most of the time. At least the law enforcement ones. Military, unless you're down looking at the military stuff, they get in the way because they're taking the guy's time, because they're the guys using their stuff. So if you want to go talk to the actual dudes making the actual stuff for the other actual dudes, you're not gonna, because the actual dudes are talking to the dudes who are making their shit, and they're there to talk to each other. You can go watch them talk to each other, which is super interesting, but you're not going to talk to the actual dudes because they're not there to talk to you, and they're not going to talk to you. And then the dudes that make stuff for them might talk to you, but they got no interest. They don't care about advertising, and they're too busy figuring out, like, oh, that didn't work when you jump out of an airplane? Then I will make it work when you jump out of an airplane. Oh, that didn't work when you jump out of an airplane and hit the water? Let's make it work so that that happens next time you jump out of an airplane and hit the water, right? Like, they're doing the real work. So if you're just in there to fuck around, mostly, like I say, it's mostly cops who are just there to look at stuff. They charge them now. But these guys used to really clog the works. Like, if you just wanted to get in and look at some gun, there was like 6 cops there. They weren't buying nothing. They weren't like cops that were in charge of buying anything. They were just cops. So they made it so they were bad as press. They've been worse than press, in my opinion, over the years. But they got as worse than press for a few years there, especially when the press started being more relevant, I think. And it was a lot of press that bitched that the military guys are being dicks. And, you know, they're military. They're alpha. They're cops. You know, they're not moving. And they definitely aren't moving for some guy with a camera. And for a couple of years there, I don't think they even let them in unless they were buyers. I might be wrong, but from what I understand, they didn't even let them in for a few years without being, if they weren't an actual buyer. Because these guys are different. They're the procurement guys. They're there to do business and get wooed. So shot for these guys is like being these are the, what do you call it? The centers of the function or whatever. What am I trying to say? Like the homecoming queens of the ball. Like, they're the ones that everyone's trying to sell to because they got unlimited budgets and they make the coolest shit. And if you make shit for them, you're going to sell to other people. So these guys are the stars of SHOT Show. And then I don't know, this is non-exhibiting manufacturer. That's just people that make stuff and are too cheap to buy a booth. So they're going to charge you out the butt because you're doing business there. You're just not paying for a booth. So who can attend? This is their version of what we just talked about. Email address required for every.
Chris Fulmer's out there saying, I wish they had a way to get in for EMS. That might get through law enforcement, possibly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, for sure.
I'm pretty sure EMS counts as law enforcement.
Yeah.
I don't know about fire department. I don't think I've seen fire department there, but I think I've seen EMS there. This is not very interesting FAQ. So I thought they had one, maybe it's just FAQ for the whole thing, but I thought they had one that would talk about how many people were going to show up and that kind of stuff.
I remember getting an email maybe like in March of last year or February, like a month or two after SHOT Show was over, and they sent an email out saying, "Hey, thanks for making this one of the largest ones. We had X amount of people." I remember getting an email, but I don't know if it's on a website or not.
Maybe it's under general media information.
It could
So
be.
they have attendees, which is pretty much the buyers. It's the people that, like the people I knew from SHOT Show back when I first learned about it in the 90s, were people from gun shops that would go to SHOT Show to be wooed. They would get shown all the new guns, they'd get to fiddle with them, and they'd make their orders. So if you're going to order from a manufacturer, then if you can order 100, it's way better than if you can order one, right? So if you can go to a manufacturer and say, well, I'll order, let's say 85 of these, but I can only order like 10 at a time. And let's say that if I can't sell the first 60, I'm not buying the last 20. Like you can come up with some arrangement like that with the guy, then that's what SHOT Show is all about. But there's middlemen, there's Lipsies and there's RSR and there's others that do the in-betweens, Davidsons and stuff. So there's, and now with the internet, it's a little different too, but you know, there's these wholesalers and they'll go to Glock and say, how many guns you got this year? We'll buy them. Like, okay, thanks. Like, yes, we ordered those. Like, we'll take as many as you got. They take them and sell them to gun shops as needed. You know, like gun shop hooks up with a middleman and says, hey, every time I need a gun, I'm going to call you. And they say, okay. And then they go out and buy all the guns from Ruger and all the guns from Mossberg and all the guns from whoever. And they just buy all the guns. So now they've got them all in some warehouses and they wait for calls from gun shops. So now the gun shops are dealing with their wholesalers or their distributors, and they're dealing with manufacturers. So sometimes they're going to go to the manufacturer and say, what's new? And Ruger will say, this gun and that gun. And then the guy else, the gun shop who's savvy will say, realistically, what are you going to actually have? And they'll go, oh, well, maybe we'll have these and we'll probably not have these. So then they'll go to their wholesaler and say, you know, only give us 10 of these, but give us 100 of these when they come through, you know, whatever. So they come up with their strategies for the year, and gun shops can make it and break it at SHOT Show. Like a gun shop that doesn't go to SHOT Show, I mean, I don't know how you would do business that way. I mean, you're just drifting at that point. When you go to SHOT Show, you're like aware of what's going on and potentially make, you know, conversations and allies with other gun shops and stuff. Anyway, I'm trying to see if we can.
I know that like my gun shop will go obviously to see what it is, but they're probably not buying directly at SHOT Show. They're using, was it Mid South or whatever, you know, like I said, the wholesale distributors in the area. That's who they're getting from, but they're going to SHOT Show so they can actually get their hands on and see what they want to bring in for the year, you know. And it's not just guns, it's clothing, it's outdoor stuff, it's hiking stuff. I mean, that's what people, you know, SHOT Show, that's what I learned. SHOT Show is so much more than just guns, you know.
Yeah, so I guess I was digging in. So we got attendees, the people that buy. You've got exhibitors, exhibitors, I believe how that's pronounced. And those are the people that make, right? So they're the people that are, and sometimes they actually, the distributors, those middlemen, they set up too. They've actually got pretty big booths where they'll have their meetings with the stores, and whatever strategic alliances they've got, they'll push those guns. So some gun shop will walk into SHOT Shows, say, this is too much work. And they'll just go there to the distributor and wait for an appointment. They'll buy all their guns for the year through that distributor, and the distributor will have like a selection of guns out there. These are the quote unquote best sellers. So whatever strategic alliances they've had with manufacturers, that's what get pushed to those gun shops. So you've got your exhibitors, which are mostly manufacturers, but some middlemen. And I mean, you've got like knife manufacturers and boots and safes and stuff. So quite a few types of manufacturers, but I guess you do get some services. Like for a long time, Second Amendment Foundation had a booth on the main floor, like the upstairs of SHOT Show, but they started charging them $8,000 or something for the booth, and they couldn't afford to pay it anymore. So they got kicked to the downstairs free curb. Basically, they put the free nonprofits downstairs in a little aisle. So mostly it's manufacturers doing the exhibitioning. And then you got us, the media, the 2,500 or so media that we were trying to find the numbers here. I didn't really find numbers that break it all down. But like Ghost is saying, there's a lot more going on. Education is the seminars. This is a conference center that we're trying to find the map to at some point here. But the dungeon that Ghost keeps talking about is the first floor where the street is. You come in and you go to this first level. Then you go up to what would be the main level because of the hill. This is the downstairs, you could say, because really you come down to the parking, but this is the ground level, the surface level. This is actually the ground level of Las Vegas. You kind of went down a hill to get into this, but this is where the doors to the outside are. This is the middle level, and this is the doors to the hotel next door. But then you go up in the air. You start going up a tower, basically, where you've got these smaller floors. These are still gigantic. This makes it look small just because the place is so huge, but you know, these are whole buildings in themselves, basically, going up just on the south, or I guess it's the north side of the building. So on one of these is the media center, the media room, which would be like just one of these little brown thingies on one level. And then you've got these other levels, and in those other levels, they're huge. They're divided into classrooms or rooms, and they'll have seminars up there. They'll have conversations, talks, industry stuff, manufacturers. Anybody can rent those rooms, I guess, for different things. So you've got multiple rooms on multiple levels for multiple days. So the, whatever you want to call it, the education portion of SHOT Show is pretty in depth. Back in the olden days, in order to get fed for free, we would go to some of the free breakfasts and things that I think they quit doing. But
I went last year and I'm going this year. USA Shootings has one that I've been invited to last year and this year. So they get free breakfast on Tuesday mornings. That's awesome.
Oh, really? Where? At the place?
Yeah. Yeah. One of those little rooms right there around the corner from the media room.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. I didn't know they did them still. So then back in the day, it's awesome. So you get basically fed for free. You just have to show up early.
Yeah.
And then they try to sell you something. It's like a timeshare. They're like, oh, here's free food. And then blah, blah, blah. Like for us, it was like Wyoming, so good. Go to Wyoming, so good. Like it was the states that would do it.
Basically, USA Shooting, what it is, they give out their yearly awards for different things. And you just sit there and eat eggs and bacon and ham while they pass out awards. And
nice.
So be it.
And that gives them a room full of people. And
Exactly.
those people something are there to see it, breakfast, which is cool. And then it also gives you a reason to be there early because you got to be there early. You're not going to be able to go get breakfast first anyway because you're going to be super early, right? So anyway, so that's cool. So that's part of that education, I guess, or those what they use those rooms for. But when they're not eating breakfast in there, you know, they can clean the breakfast out of there in like 15 minutes, and then it's something else. Some of it is those pop-up things, and then a lot of it is these seminars and stuff. So the first years I wasn't interested, and then, you know, as I started to understand what there was to do at SHOT, and you know, figuring out the boundaries of it or whatever, I was like, okay, now I want to see what these things are all about. And I've been to some of them, and I'm not going to say I know what they're always like, but you know, it's this industry coming all together and offering, I guess, advice, you know, sharing knowledge or whatever. Again, they happen multiple ones every day, so I can't explain. I haven't been to all of them. I've been to a couple, and they ranged from being decent to sucking. So, like anything, I'm sure they're the same way, right? But that's certainly an aspect of SHOT Show. When you're a shop, or you're a manufacturer, or hell, if you can imagine all the different aspects of the industry. NSSF, the people that put on SHOT, or the National Shooting Sports Foundation. They've been around since the 60s, and their goal has been to facilitate the industry part of it. So they go from materials to certifications to qualifications, like training, like whatever you call the idea that, like, what do they call it when like machining is all an agreed upon set of standards, I guess, standards. I mean, there's so many facets of this. There's the legal side, there's the material side, there's the science side of it, there's the hunting side, the conservation side, and they attempt to bring all the industry side of all these facets together. And there's so much regulation and knowledge to be gained that the education side is very much like the NRA show. You know, the NRA is an individual organization and they take care of all their business basically during that NRA show. Everybody else is concerned with the show. While everyone's concerned with the exhibitions here, the education side, I'm just going to leave it at that. It's a big portion of it. And again, when you bring the entire industry together for a week, I think there's a lot of power there. And that's another thing that, when do you see a camera up there acknowledging any of this part of it? This isn't acknowledged. It's not sexy. It's boring as hell. It's super tedious and required. It's not like anybody's doing this because they want to know about new government regulations or potential government regulations. But again, we as media can either completely focus on the frosting and leave all the carrot cake in the middle to be gross and disgusting like it is, or we can start to cover the fucking show, the whole show, and to show people what our industry is like and where it suffers and where it's needy and where it's boring, where it's bullshit and where it's unnecessary and where it's lacking. And you know what I mean? Like, it's either going to be interesting or not, but I've never seen anybody focus on anything upstairs, really. Then we get to the events, and that's a whole nother thing to talk about. And that's something else that I wanted to, 2 hours into this show, I'm sure Ghost is exhausted. It's only 15 people who fell asleep in front of the computers here. But we need to have I would like to have at least one conversation with a bunch of people who are going to SHOT this year and think about, or at least put this offer out there and put this kernel onto people's heads to see if anybody does anything with it. Has anyone attempted to show what happens from 5 p.m. until 9 a.m. the next morning at SHOT Show?
I don't think
like there is so much going on that I don't even think anyone knows all the stuff that happens. If someone were to attempt to, I think they would offer insight to SHOT Show that would be not just unique, but unprecedented. And I don't really have that much interest in doing it, but I have interest in seeing it done. I think that would be the coolest thing ever, and it would enlighten people. And I think there's a lot of misunderstandings. There's the same way that Instagram gets the reputation, or any social can get the bad rap that you're only showing the frosting, you're only showing the best parts, you're never showing the nitty gritty, you're never showing the work, the sweat, right? The broken engines, you're only showing the winning finishes and shit. And that's our tendency, right? To look at the good stuff, the shiny apple. What's the point of looking at all the boring apples or the bad ones even? Like, unless you're studying it for some reason, you only want to look at the good stuff. But I don't think the stuff that we're focusing on is because it's the only good stuff. I think it's just what people have done, and some people follow the leader. But the stuff that happens outside of SHOT is amazing. It's the industry. It's as much SHOT Show as the stuff that happens in the building. And because it happens outside and unregulated and unruled and unscheduled and whatever, it would be amazing to see. And the only way you could cover that was with a bunch of people who thought ahead of time to try to do it so that they could do something with some consistency that could be tied together. Because, but that would be the only way to do it. There's just so much different stuff happening that no one could or would get invited to everything. Carrot cake is not delicious. Carrot cake is vegetables in the guise of a cake, which is garbage. It's bread and vegetables. And that's probably another thing.
Yeah, you're going to have a massive crew that would be invited to all these things to cover. I mean, there's
11 people that are out doing it with a little bit of intent would be able to take a big bite out of what's going on there.
It would.
So anyway, that's the thing. There's events that are happening with SHOT, the official events, like the Media Day at the Range or the Supplier Showcase or the pop-up. I guess they're calling these things the events. But there's other stuff like the Stupid Golf Classic and the stupid dinners and other stupid things, right? So the events that the show puts on are kind of boring for old people, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. I've never been to one. Bob went to one with Brandon one year and listened to the comedian and stuff. He said it was all right.
I got hey, you're invited to the State of the Industry dinner on Tuesday night. it's only going to cost you $125 to go to this dinner. No thanks.
But again, everybody's $125 different to everybody.
Oh, I
And
know,
we're
but I mean,
big industry, so
I'd rather
whatever.
go hang out with a manufacturer at their place, and actually get stuff done than to listen to some comedian.
You never been to the Cry Party or a Magpul party yet?
No, I haven't been to the big ones. I went to a bunch of stuff last year, but no, I didn't. I've never been invited to like the big dog ones yet. I
Going
don't know
to
what
a
you're
real
talking
blowout is amazing. It's a thing. So then there's the travel end of it, and I think they don't do it justice. We've been to the Clark County range. You've been to the Pro Gun Vegas. You've never been to Clark County range yet, though, have you? Way the hell on the north side.
No, where the SIG shoot is.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know where the SIG shoot is. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't,
Yeah.
it could be. I just don't know where the SIG shoot is. So I don't know if it is or isn't.
I've been to Pro Gun, and I've been to where Range Day is. I've been to, yeah.
So range day is Clark County. So now we're looking at Vegas on this screen. Watch out. I'm going to go to the entire screen. This is just one monitor here. So we're looking at Vegas from space. This is full scale. This is 1-to-1 scale on my monitor. And you come in across this road here from Arizona, and then you cross the, what do you call that, dam right there. And then you go around Boulder City now. And as you go around Boulder City, I'm going to flip to satellite. You can start to see where we drive right past the range here. Right in these foothills, you can see the size of that range, right? So now I'm going to attempt to not change the scale of the screen so that we can see the size of these facilities. You know what I can do? I don't need to do that like a sucker. This isn't the olden days. Now I can, how do I copy and paste this? Go, I guess. And then now I can just go to the next one. So now I'm going to drive down this little road that bypasses the speed trap called Boulder City. And as you come up to meet with that other road, boom, you're right next to Pro Gun Vegas. And this is where you drive kind of underneath the thing. You drive over here, and this is that big building we're talking about. You said this was an ammo. It could totally be an ammo plant. I mean, that's a big building.
It was an ammo plant once. Now it's a big ass shoot house. A part of it is a big ass shoot house.
So this is the first thing you see, and then you park down here, basically. And I camped in this parking lot, right?
Yeah.
And then you take little vans. There's shuttle buses here that are vans. You'll see it as we park here, like honest to goodness vans. So for those of you that live a vanless life, you don't need to, because if you go to Vegas, Pro Gun Vegas, they'll drive you around. Well, they don't have them in here because they probably have to remove them so they don't get stolen by vagrants or whatever. But anyway, there's a whole fleet of these vans. You can see them from this angle. These white vans that take you up there. So that's a real treat. And then if you decide, you can just go back and forth all day in the van, or you guys get out on this
shoot guns.
Yeah, and shoot guns or whatever. So you get up to this hill, and then there's bays, and it's just like bays. It's just a big building place. Pro Gun, probably because it's like a bar in there, basically. And then bays. And this cool, is this it? I guess this is this cool big thing. I wanted to walk up here because I bet you get a good picture from the top of this little hill thing here. So yeah, that's a decent sized range. So now I'm gonna see, where's my scale down here? Where's my scale? Oh, 500 feet. What am I at on this one? 200. So there's 500-foot scale here. Here's 500-foot scale here. Now we can put them side to side and see which is a bigger facility. This is the same size facility. Is there any contest? Any contest?
No.
This one is tiny compared to this one. Look at how big these bays are. This is the same scale, 500-foot scale. Boom. So now we can take that, and now we're going to go to the one we originally wanted to check out, which is the Clark County. Can you hear that?
Yeah, what is that?
We got a hard drive going out. Okay, here we go. So yeah, it glitches out like that. So now we're going to scroll out a little bit. We've been on the south side of Vegas. I'm going to flip back to map so it's a little easier to figure out where Vegas is. So we've been down here on the south side of Vegas. Then you get Henderson, Then you get the strip. The strip is this little diagonal line, and you keep going, and then you get out to this side of town. So almost as far, not quite as far as it is to get from the strip to Boulder, it is to get to here. Actually, it's a little bit closer than that even. Now I'm going to flip back to satellite, and you can see it's literally by itself on the north side of town here. There's a couple of cool gun shops and things in this area. You come out of all that, you kind of run through this stretch of desert, and then you enter it past these two big water tanks, and then it's, look at this thing. So there's 1,000. There's the 500-foot scale. Now let's compare it with these other ranges, these lesser ranges. This is a county range. Oops. This is a county range. So, you know, it doesn't have to worry about funding, obviously. And then this is pro-gun. So pro-gun is not anything to be laughed at. I mean, that's a lot of range.
Yeah, it is.
These are all the 500-foot scale. So these should all be 1-to-1, right? As far as I understand, these should all be 1-to-1. And this is showing you Clark County's not little, but it ain't big either. So this, or I should say, I keep calling it Clark County because it's Boulder, rifle and pistol. So it's in Boulder.
That's
But
where
anyway,
the
that's
range
Boulder,
is, right?
pro gun, and then this is the Clark. This can't be the right scale. It says though 500 feet. Oh, you know what it is? That's just telling me what 500 feet. There, that's the same scale. There, now they're all the same scale. So they're all still the same ratio though. Clark is pretty big. This one's bigger, and this one's just insanely bigger. That still doesn't seem right. Anyway, you get the idea. This is a giant range, and it's county, so I don't know if they're able to get use of a county range for a shot activity. So the SIG might be there. Looking back at this map, I guess, we'll scroll out again. We'll go up into Vegas, but this time stay on the east side of Vegas and get up here to Nellis.
I was gonna say, there was someone that utilizes Nellis's, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's a shit ton on Nellis. So you get off of the highway, you get over to Nellis here, and we've shot on more than one range here. There's actually quite a few ranges off of Nellis. Trying to get my bearings, but you can start seeing them from space. But like here's the gun club, but you pass like two on the way to the gun club, and then they're you know, testing or qualification ranges just out in the desert. So you'll have, like, we were driving to one year, and they're like pointing out as we're driving there where like 2 or 3 other shoots were simultaneously. And then on this side of Vegas, or on this side of Nellis, there is over here this shooting range, the Las Vegas something or another range. There's the police department range, or is it the police department range? I thought there's a police department range and then a regular range behind it. One year we went to a GSSF match here though, and it was like an hour and a half wait just to shoot. Like once you signed in this building, it was like an hour and a half wait just to shoot, which is amazing because normally a GSSF match, like if you're there an hour, usually it's like if you got to drive a half hour to the place, you're there for an hour and a half, including driving. And GSSF matches are 5 or 3 bays, and they take no time. So anyway, there's lots and lots of places to shoot in Vegas, and I don't know how many of them SHOT Show has reached into. And then the, what do you call them? The rentals. So behind Circus here is where you get the Battlefield Vegas. They just got
One's the one that picks you up in Hummers and all that.
Well, actually, quite a few of them pick you up in Hummers. But Battlefield Vegas's Hummers look like Hummers with machine guns on them. MGV, Machine Gun Vegas, is the girls. They are over here in like one of these square buildings, and they are more discreet. They're not like modeled. I mean, they're model quality hot, but they're not. They're like gun girls. It's like Machine Gun BB and stuff. Like girls that understand guns. They just happen to be really good looking. They are the range masters, and they're more for like celebrities and stuff who like, I want to go shooting, but I want like, you know, models to teach me how to shoot. So they do a Hummer. There's multiple. There's like two others. There's Range 702 and whatever they call themselves, Shooting Vegas or something. Are south on this highway. There's the Gun Club over here, and there's one down the road to Pahrump down here that all pick you up. I just don't know what vehicles they use, but Hummers are like one of the, iconic ones to pick people up in. All right, well, so Media Day is Industry Day. Yep, Media Industry Day at the range. Well, actually, that's a whole other topic. But anyway, I'd like to discuss the idea of trying to cover like SHOT Show after hours or SHOT Show behind the scenes, or I don't know how to call it. And then, of course, just covering SHOT Show. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever put any effort. I don't even think hardly anybody's ever interviewed the people at SHOT Show, let alone putting effort into focusing on it, including themselves, which is bad on them. Shame on them. Come on, you should be archiving an industry thing, especially when you consider it to be something that unifies and keeps the industry together. So create history, let people know what the history of that is. And that's something, again, that, with 11 people going, if we all offered one suggestion and then we all followed through on everyone's suggestions, we'd have 11 projects that would have 11 videos in them. And that would only require each person making 10 videos. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like if each of us said, hey, can you do this? And then we all did that. We each did that for each of us. We each do it. Maybe, and it wouldn't even be 10 times. It's not like some of us are going to ask you to do anything. So a couple of people are going to ask everybody to do something. If people actually followed through on that, that creates a project right there, and hopefully an aspect of SHOT that no one's ever looked at before.
Yeah.
And part of it, innovation is copying or whatever, like whatever the word is, like evolution. So if we do something one year and somebody says, oh, I like what they did, but and they do something the next year, and that leads for somebody else to go, oh, that was interesting, but, and then take it on a little further the next year.
Right.
All right, well, it looks like Chris is kicking out. We're down to 12. We're by no legal means required to continue the show, so we'll end it. Thanks for Gary for jumping in. Thanks for Ghost for jumping in. Keep it going. I like having evening shows. The whole point is to have, at this show at least, is to have a discussion on something besides news of the day. I think we were able to do that and still hopefully offer something interesting. Thanks to Bishop for chatting out there, and Chris and Matt Flutter, even though you have crazy ideas about frosting, crazy ideas about cake. Where you stand on carrot cake, vegetable cake?
I wouldn't touch carrot cake, no.
See, I don't like cream cheese frosting. That doesn't help nothing with me. I don't like cream cheese.
I do like cream cheese frosting, but I just don't like carrot cake.
I don't get it. You know that it's just cream cheese with sugar in it.
Sure, I like cream cheese.
Yeah, see, I don't like cream cheese all that much. Definitely don't need to put sugar in it and then call it frosting when it's not. It's just cream cheese with sugar in it. But people really like that. And then I think they come up with this vegetable cake, vegetable bread. Do they call cornbread cake? No, because it's vegetable in a bread. They don't try to hide nothing. They don't put no cheese on it. And if you do put cheese on it, on cornbread, it's usually a decent cheese, like cheddar cheese, right? But I don't think too many.
Cornbread either, so.
You don't eat cornbread?
No.
Because you don't like it, or what?
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah.
I guess I could see that. It's kind of different enough to, it could be something that people didn't like. I mean, I like it because it's corn. But again, I don't go around calling it cake. It's cornbread.
Right.
But, what are they going to make? Tomato cake? Zucchini cake? They probably do make zucchini bread, actually.
Yeah. They have a zucchini
bread. I'll eat, what's that called? Pumpkin bread or zucchini bread and stuff like that. Like, I don't mind when you make bread and stuff. Just quit trying to call it cake. Pass it off as a dessert. It's just a bread.
That's the marketing wizards.
Yeah, it's old people. Old people were weird and they were desperate. Like back in the day, if you never ate but an apple was the only sweet thing you got to eat ever. And and somebody put a piece of carrot cake down in front of you, of course, you're going to think it's delicious, right? Oh, my goodness.
Well,
Now
they
we have
probably
real
start
cakes.
calling it cake so they get the kids to eat it. They wouldn't eat it if it was bread, but if it's carrot cake, they could eat their carrots, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Plus, carrots go bad. Nobody wants to eat them, so they start going bad, and they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do? With all these carrots we waste our money on? Oh, let's call it cake." But so again, I'm not complaining. When my grandparents were children, carrot cake, fine. You know, the Depression era, whatever. But when you can go to a Walmart and you can get any number of delicious chocolate cakes with actual frosting, kick them vegetable breads to the
So
curb.
are you a buttercream frosting guy?
Real frosting, like actual
Yeah,
frosting, yes, I'm okay with
yeah,
that.
good
I'm okay
stuff.
if you melt. I've had a cake. My aunt used to just take candy bars, Hershey bars. She would make this one cake. It was pretty neat because it was. I think you baked it, but you didn't have any. It was a weird cake. It came out like chocolate, and while it was still pulling out of the oven in the metal container, just out of the
Hmm.
oven, she would put Hershey bars on it, like plain old Hershey bars.
Just
They
let it
would
melt.
melt, and then she'd just barely squish them around. Now they'd cover the top of that cake, and then when it kept the cake kind of wet, moist, but
Hmm.
basically it was a thin layer of Hershey bar on top. And that if you want to call that frosting, even though it's technically not, no problem. I'm okay with that. So I'm okay with alternative frostings, but not cheese.
I hear you.
That's like putting cheese on an apple pie. Desperate attempt to put cheese in desserts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so I'd like I can handle almost the rest of the frostings. I don't like the whipped cream frostings that much. I don't believe they should be on a cake. That quinceanera I went to, they had these
Hmm.
little cupcakes that looked like cactuses, like little potted
Yeah.
cactuses with their cupcakes. And I figured that would be frosting, but it turned out to be whipped cream. But it was actually really good. So I used to not like whipped cream a lot more, but I'll have to take that back. Did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
It's not what you're expecting, when you see something on top of a cupcake,
Yeah.
you think you're about to bite into to frosting.
And it's not, you know.
Yeah, and it's like whipped cream basically. And yeah, maybe I don't know. See, I don't think buttercream is too sweet. Not Flutters saying buttercream is too sweet. Where do you come down on
No,
buttercream?
I love buttercream. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's basically butter and sugar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, but I guess you could say it's too sweet. I mean, there's definitely bad buttercream. Like factory
Yeah.
buttercream is not
You can
good, but
do
like
sweet.
old
Yeah.
lady buttercream. Now we're talking like somebody's grandma making buttercream for their granddaughter's wedding. That's going to be a good buttercream, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, the problem is too that whatever you get industrial level is barely going to look like what it's supposed to look like, and you get a lot of, well, my grandma made it good, so this one looks like it. You give it a little bit too much credit, maybe.
Yeah.
I guess that's happening. So there's a little extra 7 minutes of cake knowledge handing down to everybody. It's another way of looking at shot. No one ever talks about eating at shot show.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, I shouldn't say that. Very few people. We've done it before.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I think also it's worth maybe doing some shot show stuff now. Right now, everybody's going to be doing their end of the year stuff. So just to switch it up, I figured I'd be doing some shot show stuff here. Getting ready again to dig into 15th year. I would definitely like to, continue to see it keeping interesting and changing. I'll use that same analogy. It started out not liking cameras. Now it's totally comfortable with them. What would happen if we tried to do something intentionally for 2A? What if we just asked them every year about 2A until 2A becomes part of their booths?
That's a interesting. I asked several booths last year. One of the questions I asked, several questions, but one of the questions I asked, a lot of them were, um, what 2A organizations does their corporation support? And you had some that were very open with that, and there were some that didn't want to answer that. And I figured, and I didn't say that, but I assumed that if they didn't want to answer it, probably means they didn't support any, but I didn't say that. But I didn't ask every single one, but I did. You can kind of tell when you're talking to someone if they're cool and they'll answer pretty much anything, or if they're just, I'm reading my script and then I'm gonna move on to the next guy. So you kind of have to feel them out if you thought they might open up and stuff like that. I asked probably about, I don't know, 15 or 20 different companies. And like I said, some of them answered it, some of them didn't, and some of them were like, I really don't know. That's a good question. Like they wanted to answer, they just didn't know the information.
Well, like you say, that's interesting. It's sort of like again, back when I'm thinking of like 9 and 10. 9, the first year we brought cameras. By 10 and 11, multiple people were bringing cameras and asking. So there was already videos to see. It's a lot different when you go to SHOT Show and say, can I take a video? And they've never even considered such a thing. And then they go home from SHOT Show and they turn on their computer, or they get an email from their grandson or their competitor or something going, hey, look at this video from your competitor at SHOT Show. And then they go, dang it, why didn't we do a video? Or dang it, we should have done a video. Or dang it, wish that guy would have asked us. Or dang it, what if we brought our own guy? Like all kinds of stuff starts happening once they set precedent. So, and I saw that happen between 2009, where there was no such thing as video at SHOT Show, to 2010, where we alone, me, Thumbs, Lefty, and Scott didn't really take anything. 3 of us took 350 videos, brought 350 edited videos out of SHOT Show. And then that was changed, like boom, 3 years and SHOT Show changed. I don't know. I mean, you can't force something. If you force something, that's the quickest way to make it fail, right? But you can set something up. You can create a situation and put all the ingredients in a place that makes it easy for people. So it might be impossible to make people do anything, but laying a couple of suggestions out there that a bunch of people hear about, if it changes to where, again, 2A is some sort of focus or somehow in part of the equation, it doesn't take but maybe 3 sessions, 3 years before, with positive reinforcement or actual usefulness of the concept or something, or the effort, it takes only a couple of years for it to become established. So I don't know. I'd like to continue to see I'm looking forward to the continuation of that evolution. Of course, we're not doing this on a stable platform. SHOT Show itself changes. Very little of it has been consistent. There's some artificial consistencies, like where they put it, the venue, but we're already seeing certain aspects of the venue are not concrete. The supplier showcase got kicked to the curb this year after all kinds of effort and lead up and getting everybody hot and bothered and making it a cool thing. Now they yank it and put it someplace else, it'll probably kill it. Maybe not. Maybe it'll turn into its own thing and SHOT Show will dwindle off and die because it's boring and they don't need to do SHOT Show anymore. Maybe it should just be industry again. Maybe supplier showcase is what SHOT Show should have been in the first place. Maybe a bunch of artists will show up and figure out how to use the supplier showcase to showcase the materials used. And now people don't just buy a gun based on its ergonomics, but based on the engineering and the materials used in it. Often does someone say, this new gun is new because we've done a different metal process. If anything, it's because they've done a cheaper metal process, but something that's truly innovative. Anyway, throwing the stuff off here. I was supposed to be ending it. But appreciate the people that show up. It is fun to talk about this stuff. We'll continue to talk about it when people show up. We'll continue to invite people. And like I say, we'll continue to keep talking about SHOT Show here. Get people juiced up, hopefully look at it in a different way. And instead of being another, stay tuned for your SHOT Show posts, it turns into, can't wait to see what they do with SHOT Show this year.
Yeah, it's my favorite week of the year.
So again, thanks everybody for showing up. We'll see you tomorrow.